Hello everybody, welcome into our latest live broadcast. Today it's the 28th of March 2025. My name is Carey Holzman and today we have a mini PC review that, we've seen a lot of mini PCs, especially over the last 18 months, but there's been sort of a shift in value and I can sit here and I can guess why that's happened, but essentially the $1,000 mini PCs that are 2 years old are $500 today and better equipped. Under $500, you can have a 12900 flagship 12th gen CPU with 32 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte of Gen 4 storage. With, does this have Oculink? I think it has Oculink. I'm not sure. You're very well equipped under $500. What's happening to the world? This is insane. When budget machines start at or under, let's say, $200, I would initially say budget machines were like $250 or less. Now I'm saying they're $200 or less, and now I'm reconsidering that position to be about $180 or less. And for essentially twice that price, 1.5 times that price, you can get a flagship computer that has a processor from 2 years ago. And we got to look at the comparison between a 12900H versus the 14900, whatever it's called, H. The video on this one's actually better. The built-in graphics on the 12th gen. The 12th gen has fewer cores, but a faster clock speed. The 14900 has more cores, but a slower clock speed, but a higher turbo rate. There's all this give and take, and depending on how you use the unit, that may not matter much to you in everyday real world life, but the price difference, first of all, trying to find a 14900 mini PC, there's a few out there, but they're over $1,000, at least the ones I've seen. And this is under $500 right now. So we're going to talk about this today. I hope you're as excited as I am, because we have two. We have an Intel version, that's this machine here. And then later on, we'll be looking at some point next week, I think is when, maybe this weekend. I got to see what the time looks like for me, my availability. But we have the equivalent AMD version, which is a high-end AMD chip, also at that $500 price point, 32 gigs, terabyte, Gen 4, et cetera, et cetera. And if you're an AMD fan and you prefer that, just stay tuned. There's an option there for Minisforum as well. And again, I'm just speculating as to why these machines have gotten so inexpensive. But there's never been a better time if you thought that a high-end computer was something you were never going to be able to afford. At $500, less than $500, that is half of what this used to sell for. And if anything, you were getting a machine that's so comparable to the latest generation of Intel chip. It's only 2 years behind, but those little tiny percentage points either way, which again, they might make a difference to you. We're going to compare. We'll go onto a website. We'll just look at the difference between those two CPUs. Everything else is still the same power supply. It's still going to be the same RAM. Well, no, I take it back. This will be using DDR4 with Gen 4 PCIe, and the 14th gen will be using DDR5 with Gen 5 PCIe. That doesn't necessarily mean the NVMe is Gen 5, but it could be. And again, if that's important to you, well, it's nothing money can't fix. If you want to spend twice the amount to get this much back in return, that much extra, far be it from me. I'm Mr. Practical. I'm looking where the value is. So when I was made aware of this model, it's very similar to a model we looked at before called the Minisforum NAB9. And I like that one, if you remember. I really liked it. This is the NAB9 Plus. So we're going to look at the specs of that here, but first I want to say hello to everybody and welcome in. I hope everybody's having a great Friday. John Struthers just became a supporter here. Thank you, John, for becoming a member of and supporting the channel. Hello to Eddie Casanova and Eugene Ildago, 2 more members here that have been friends of the channel for some time. Alex says hello. Of course, Marlena, our channel administrator, hanging out with us here in the chat. Gaming Noob said, this is the realest tech channel on YouTube. I wish it wasn't. I wish there was more content creators making less commercial content and keeping it real. But so long as they don't, it really motivates me to keep going, and I'm so glad you appreciate it. Some viewers, they want to see commercials and they get mad at me. They're like, your videos are too long. Well, that's how long it takes. You know, if you want to order one of these, do you live your life in fast forward? Are you racing to death? I mean, I don't understand. So some people don't get it. So for those of you who do, obviously everybody in our chat room, thank you for getting it. Thank you for being a part of this. Let's see. That's the other thing other viewers don't get. They don't get the interaction between us. They watch the video after it airs. They're like, geez, I'm 45 minutes in and you just unboxed it. Yeah, well, we've been hanging out. Where were you? Maybe if you hung out with us, you'd realize that 45 minutes went by quickly. So we encourage you to come hang out with us. We'd love to have you here in the chat and interact with us live. Unlike most other tech channels here on YouTube, I interact more with my audience than I think I've ever seen any creator interact. Sometimes creators that I've watched will interact with some of the audience, and other creators will interact with everybody. I only know one other, well, our friend Doug Betts over at Live Windows Training with Doug Betts will generally interact with everybody. And Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, or a friend there in England, also interacts with a lot of people in his chat. And both are tech guys, and that's it, just 3 of us. So it's pretty rare to find. At least those are the ones I'm aware of. Anybody else, especially when you get to these giant content creators, it becomes impossible for them to, you know, talk to everybody in the chat because they're too popular. There's just too many people. You can't get to everybody and you'll never get a video done. That's the downside of getting too big from my perspective, is you lose that connection to your audience. But at the same time, as we continue to grow, it's definitely had an impact on how many, sometimes the chat room gets busier than I can keep up with even at our size. But I do my best, and I often encourage people that if I didn't see their question earlier, depending on if we have a busy chat room, to simply repost it again, so you give me a chance to see it, right? So that's half my battle. So I'm very happy with where we're at as far as the channel size, but where I'd like to see it grow is in the community side of things. So please join us in a live chat. We only ask that you're kind. Just be nice. It seems like something you shouldn't have to ask for, but this is where we are in 2025. And all you have to do is, during a live show, enter our chat room and say hello. Just watch what happens next. You'd be surprised just how many friendships from people that live in completely different areas of the world have formed here in our chat room that will live on long beyond this channel. That's so much bigger than anything we're doing on the channel, right? These products that we review, a few years on, you're gonna just turn your nose up at it and say, ah, it's old stuff. But friendships, they gain value with age, right? They become even more precious to you. So just keep that in mind. We'd love to have you here. If you're a kind individual, you are welcome in our chat room. Speaking of the chat room, let me get back to saying hello. We've got Ron Barnish hanging out with us. Dustin Fuller says hello, and David Graham. Our friend Mark Gaines also sent a very generous PayPal contribution just as the show was starting. And a thank you to our friend Mark Gaines, who joins us from Northern Ireland. I want to shout out also our friend Frankie B, who gave a contribution yesterday. And of course, our friend Buster out there in Scotland, who's a very generous supporter here and a good friend of ours. And just a special shout out to those folks, Oystein as well, who watches us in Norway. Of course, our friend Charlie Purdy and numerous others. Getting back to who's here in the chat right now, I see Luke Greenia, another good friend of the channel here, joining us from Vermont. And I see Phil Stodd saying hello. Charlie Purdy with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Charlie, as always. He says, hello, Carey, Mara, and everyone in the chat. That was a hot show yesterday. Yeah, that machine does get, the mini PC we reviewed yesterday gets too hot to touch. It even has a sticker telling you, it warns you, that's the way it's supposed to run. And I did discover after the show that it had the Intel driver and support assistant on it, which I thought was weird. So I ran Malwarebytes on it because I don't know where that Intel driver support assistant came from. And Malwarebytes came up clean. So I'm glad to have the Intel driver assistant. I would have put it on, but it shouldn't be on a regular Windows install. And the other thing that was different about that install is it gave me 2 different language keyboards. It gave me an English and a British. And so I had to figure out to go in the time and language and the settings of Windows 11, make the US English the first one. It'll list all of the different languages, and then remove what was left. And that got rid of the system tray that was telling. It was a system tray information box I've never seen before, because I don't use multi-language keyboards. So there's a part of me that wants to do a wipe and a reinstall on that Windows 11. I think it's fine. And again, with Malwarebytes coming up clean, I'm not worried about anything like that. I'm more worried about default settings, because that's not a default setting I'm accustomed to. But nothing major. So anyway, it's been put away because we have to make room for the NAB9 Plus. And glad you enjoyed the show yesterday. That box was very different. It's definitely for a niche audience, for sure. Scott says hello. Nicholas Barlow says hello. Ben Laird joins us from Scotland. Mark Gaines says he got his new computer built. Oh, yeah, he sent a photo of that, didn't he? I'll check my phone and see if we can share Mark Gaines' build. He's been putting this together for about 2 weeks now, trying to get compatible parts, I think, was an issue. Sending something back, waiting for something else to come in. And it looks fantastic. The video he'd sent us the other day, it was very close up. So I wanted to see, for example, what color is the case? So I said, hey, do us a favor, send us another picture or video pull the camera back a bit so we can see the case. And he did that. So thank you, Mark, and we'll take a look at that here in just a minute. Kurt Schlegel says hello. Bajan Guy saying hello. YTJ, Rick Lakes, and Shamim Kajviris say hello. Shamim joining us from Sweden. Ford Oliver says hello. Jonathan says hello. I see Bradley Morris and Jose Del Nido saying hello. Martin Postema and Claudio Ventura joining us, along with Dazzle555 and Jose Lopez. Welcome in. There's Davis Parsons and Patrick Manny and 3D Everything and John Lewis. John Lewis, I think, is in Brazil, if I recall correctly. And Rick Lakes in Minnesota. It's amazing to be able to just turn on my camera here and broadcast live around the world. It just always is a novelty for me. I'm slack-jawed. Think about the scale of it. Growing up in the 80s, this would have been $6 a minute on a phone call. Anyway, today's computer. Wait, before I get to today's computer, I'm in such a hurry. Let's go to look at the email from Mark. There it is. Can I turn it sideways? See if that'll work. There is Mark's build, which, do you see any wires? You see the power supply, power cables to the video card, and let me replay that again, and the hoses for the liquid cooler. That's pretty much the only cables you see, and there's not much you can do about that. Very clean. Really good job, Mark. And I'll bet you that machine runs even better than it looks, which is saying something. You should be very happy with that for a very long time. And I'll be surprised if you ever have a component failure, because he chose very good quality components. So good job. Now come over here and finish about 20 incomplete builds I've got whenever you have time. Just pawn that off on somebody else. Shamim Kajver has just renewed his membership. He says, hello, Carey, another month, and grateful to be a member of this wonderful community. Hugs to everyone, wishing you all the best. And Shamim has now been a member for 22 months. That's awesome. Thank you, Shamim. All right, today, the NAB9 Plus. How is it different from the NAB9? Let's talk about just how much you're getting for your money. You tell me if you disagree. You're allowed to. But I can't imagine that you can get more for your money than what they're doing right now. And if you can, I'd love to know what you're comparing it to, because I think this is stunning. And that's why, as much as we've seen mini PCs, these are the kind of exceptions I need to see to justify making a video. We need something different. We need something that offers a unique solution, such as yesterday's fanless mini PC. We need something that offers exceptional value. Or we need something that's so inexpensive, even though it's a budget machine, that you're still getting an entire computer for the lowest prices I've ever seen with a warranty. Even though they're budget machines, the fact that they're selling for as little as $130, that is video worthy. And for that reason, this, in my opinion, is video worthy. And that's why we're going to talk about it today. Again, if you disagree with me, if you have some links to products that are a better value, that have a higher, a better processor or more RAM or more storage or faster, that sells for the same or less money than this today, please let me know, because I want to be aware of these deals. We're dealing with Minisforum, which means we know we're dealing with quality. We know that we're not dealing with some questionable manufacturers that are kind of a roll of the dice when it comes to quality. Minisforum has been very steady with regards to the quality of the products that we're seeing over and over, the variation of models. Plus, they sell keyboards and monitors and docking stations and external graphics docks. I mean, Minisforum's got so many products out right now. Motherboards for like ITX builds that utilize those mobile processors and mobile RAM that's cheaper to put together. So the variety that Minisforum has, on top of also offering bare bones versions of their computers that make them even cheaper if you want to put your own RAM and your own storage and in your own operating system. They sell them, many of their models you can buy just completely bare. Today's model is already packaged and ready to go out of the package, and it's the NAB9 Plus. So we're looking at that here on the website. It comes with 32 gigs of RAM already installed and 1 terabyte of Gen 4 storage. You'll see they've got different power plugs for Japan, Europe, UK, France, the Netherlands, and I think KR is Korea, if I'm not mistaken, South Korea. And take a look at the specs here. I'm going to just jump over to the specs channel side of things here. Yeah, it's got the Oculink port. The lid is one of those, if you remember, you just push down on it, it just clicks open, no screws are needed. That gives you fast, easy access to your RAM and storage. You may even be able to fit a 2.5-inch drive in the lid. Even when they say you can, I don't recommend that you do that, because that traps more heat inside the mini PC. So I would recommend, if you want to add more storage, go through the USB ports. But they do offer it, and you can do that if you want to do that to yourself. I just don't advise it. We got dual 2.5 gig LAN ports on this. Yeah, you get 2 of them. It's 3200 megahertz RAM that's put in there, DDR4. It's a standard 2280 NVMe solid state drive that's pre-installed, and Wi-Fi 6E with Bluetooth 5.2. It does have a USB 4 port that does the 40 gigs per second and does power delivery. And it does video output too. It's got the Intel Iris Xe built-in graphics. They're part of the 12900. These are superior to what's in the 14900. However, depending on how you use it. We'll get more into that later. But with the dual with the dual video outputs plus the USB 4 that could be used as a video output, you can run 3 monitors simultaneously off this little guy. When it comes to gaming or things like that, these mini PCs are very limited because of the built-in graphics. That doesn't mean they're not going to run your game, but you will have to make some concessions. And if you're really into gaming, you probably want to spend 2 to 3 times more money to get a proper gaming machine. Anything under $1,000, I wouldn't even consider as a gaming rig personally. If you're looking at something, a computer, and it's under $1,000, I just want you to go look at the cheapest 50 series graphics card you could buy and compare it to just the cost of a GPU for gaming. That's a real gaming machine GPU, and that will typically be over $600 just for that one component. And here we're getting an entire computer for less than that. So if you want to game and you've got the kind of resources to game, I strongly recommend you buy a machine over $1,000. If you're into the triple title gaming and you want to play it in the highest resolution, best quality possible, it's nothing money can't fix. If you're not that particular with regards to being demanding on your gaming, this will do much of it just fine. It's not going to blow your mind as far as seeing frames per second But considering what you paid for it, I don't know that you could find anything any faster at that price. And again, if you can, let me know. But let's see. But this also has Oculink. So if you want to spend $1,000 to buy the dock and a graphics card and a power, well, I think the dock comes with power. You'd be somewhere around $1,000 just to add the graphics card, depending on which model. And then you could plug it into this $500 computer and turn it into a gaming PC. But again, you're going to be over $1,000 in total price. There's really no way around it that I'm aware of other than loosening your demands of expectation or the titles of games that you're playing. Retro games, some esports games are going to run just fine on this. And other games set at lower resolutions will probably be just fine as well. This is the 12th generation 12900HK CPU. It's got 14 cores that are 20 threads in total, 24 megs of cache. It's got a base of 2.9 gig, and it'll turbo to 5.0. Now, if you compare that to a 14900, forget what the letters are on the end of that, the mobile 14900, you get more cores, but a slower base, but a higher turbo. It's sort of a give and take on that, depending on what you're using the machine for. Most people probably wouldn't notice any difference between one or the other, but you would notice about a difference in twice the price. We've got two USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-A ports up front with your audio jack, which supports headphones, microphone, headset. Power button, a clear CMOS button, and a dynamic microphone is behind this little hole here. On this backside, you'll see we've got two USB 2.0 Type-A's. We've got an HDMI port, an Oculink port, the two 2.5 gig LAN ports, display port out, and USB 4 Type-C in the back with the standard barrel power jack, which is 19 volts, pretty standard on these portable mobile processors. Whether it's a laptop or a mini PC, many of them are on that 19 volt adapter. Wi-Fi 6E isn't Wi-Fi 7, but most people can't even utilize 6E anyway. So Wi-Fi 6E with Bluetooth 5.3 is darn near as good as the latest as anybody's probably using. And again, for us to get Wi-Fi 7, we're dropping nearly 3 times the cost of this mini PC just on the router, right? And on our monthly internet services, well, at 2.5 gig. So for us to get that 2.5 gig, we are able to get that with Wi-Fi 7 by paying that $200 a month to the internet service provider, plus $1,300 for a Wi-Fi 7 router, plus the added expense of a Wi-Fi 7 adapter. Because this is so expensive, most people don't use it. Most people don't even use 6E. If anything, probably Wi-Fi 5 and Wi-Fi 6 are the most in use today, and they're also some of the cheapest to implement. So I don't see any downside to Wi-Fi 6E for the general population, and I don't see somebody getting this much for so little complaining that it wasn't enough. There's the Oculink. There's a dock there that we'll talk about that more. Minisforum makes this dock. You provide your own GPU, and this does not support hot swapping. You've got to make sure everything's turned off when you're plugging your graphics card in. And it's got to be plugged into the PC before you turn the computer on. So again, 2.5 gig LAN, 4K triple screen display. So yeah, all 3 screens support 4K, 2 at 60 Hertz, and the display port up to 120 Hertz. It's got the VESA bracket, so you can mount it behind your monitor. You could take it with you where you go, I suppose, as long as you got a keyboard, a mouse, and a monitor to plug it into. And in the box it says we've got the mini PC, the power adapter with the power cable and the wall mount, screws, an HDMI cable, a SATA cable for installing a 2.5-inch drive internally, which again I don't recommend you do, and an instruction manual. So pretty straightforward. The 40 gig per second full speed USB 4. That's great if you want to hook up an external drive, get yourself like an NVMe enclosure. It'd put a Generation 3 NVMe drive, like a Samsung 970 EVO 2 terabyte drive. Those are really cheap right now. Throw it into a USB 4 external enclosure, and you're going to move data faster than the internal SATA drive, 6 times faster, by getting it out of the PC and putting it external and using NVMe instead of SATA. SATA is just an old technology, And again, you're trapping more heat in the mini PC where there is no fan on that side. So you're going to create a lot more heat around your RAM and your NVMe storage. And for those reasons, I don't recommend you put any more internal storage in this. Just add it USB. That's what the USB port's for. But here's the deal. Over at Amazon, this unit, the one we have in front of us, with 1 terabyte Gen 4 NVMe, 32 gigs of DDR4, with the Oculink, with the dual 2.5 gig LAN ports, the Wi-Fi 6E, they're showing it at $583, but it shows $120 off of that, making this $463. That's a crazy price. I dare you, try and build this as a desktop. Go look at how much a 12900K processor is. Or just do a 12500, go to an i5. Along with the motherboard, the cooler, the case, the power supply, the storage, the RAM, and then put your operating system on it. Tell me what number you get to. I'm going to guess you're going to be somewhere around $800. So at $463, you're at nearly half the cost of building something yourself. This is a lot smaller. Sure, it's not as upgradable in the sense of a desktop tower, but we haven't seen a bunch of failures either way. I'm not seeing a bunch of desktops coming back from repair. I'm not seeing a bunch of mini PCs coming in for repair. They all kind of work the same. So from my experience, I don't see any reliability difference. It uses less power, so the cost of electricity to run this is cheaper than your desktop. And the way it's equipped, what do you need to upgrade anyway? It's already good to go for many years right out of the box. You should not have to do anything. It's ready to use. Take it out of the box, plug it in. That's it. Trying to improve it, it's perfect. Just the way it is. If that's not enough, again, you could spend more money and you can get more. But I believe, from my experience in working with the general public, this is far more than they're going to use for years. So that's my opinion. Now, the AMD equivalent of this, the UM880 Plus, not just the 880, but the 880 Plus is the Ryzen 7. And once again, you're going to have that 1 terabyte Gen 4 with 32 gigs of RAM. That'll be DDR5 though. And of course, you've got the Oculink, the triple display. You've got 5 USB ports, the 2.5 gig LAN. There's $120 off of this one. That brings the price to $519. So it's about a $50 price increase on this model. And depending on what your personal preferences are, I just want you to be aware that these are on sale right now with that coupon code if you're an Amazon Prime member. And I don't think you can go wrong with either one. I just think the Intel one's the better deal. When we talk about comparing the Intel model to the latest Intel model, so let's say a 12900, what is this, HX versus a 14900. I can't remember what the letters are. We'll just call it HX. And I'm just clicking on a site here. You'll see the scores between these two machines are very close. We're at a 54 overall here, a 51. So it's just slightly slower. 24 cores, 32 threads, 16 cores, 24 threads. Does that make a difference in your world? If it does, you could spend more money. If it doesn't, you can save a lot of money because this came out in the second quarter of 2022, where this one's way more money because it just came out the first quarter of 2024. I guess that's not just. If we scroll down, we can see things like memory scores, core scores, and it's very much a teeter-totter or a seesaw. It flips back and forth between which one's better, and it really depends on how you're using it. So depending on the software you run and what resources that software primarily relies on will determine which is better for you. The average user, in my experience, won't see a difference either way. They're so similar. And there is another benchmark here. I think it's under Nano Review, where they talk about the graphics card. So here are the key differences. And that is, obviously, the 14900 is newer. It has 8 more physical cores, and it supports DDR5. Again, most people would never see any difference in that. It has a larger L3 cache size. That's going to appear to be a little snappier, a little more responsive for most people, but not by much. 16% higher turbo boost, 5.8 versus 5, but it does have a slower base clock speed. It's about 17% theoretical memory bandwidth performance improvement, but that's theoretical. What you get in reality depends on how you use it. And 20% faster in a single core test on Geekbench. I don't know how many people rely on single core, maybe gaming. And then some discussion here about the CPU being superior in the 12900, or the GPU. So where is that information at? So single core and multi-core performance differences here. And remember, to go to that 14900, you're going to spend twice as much money, but you're not getting that much back in return. You know, here they're using it on Blender, which again, it's very rare I run into a user that uses Blender. It's a pretty complex piece of software for rendering 3D art or things you want to 3D print, things like that. It's basically like CAD in a way. It's the closest thing I could find to think of a comparison that the average person might understand. CPU performance. Look at the base here, 2.2 versus 2.3, 5.8. This is the 14900 over here. This is the 12900. So it's a little better. This core number is not right. Oh, I see. Okay, 16 on the left, 8 on the right. So this is the 14900. So yeah, higher turbo, but slower base. Again, base frequency 1.6 over here, 1.7 over there on the efficiency cores, but a higher turbo of 4.1 on the efficiency cores versus a 3.6. It's so minute. So unless you really need the cores, most people don't even use all these 16 cores, let alone even 8 cores. So to go to 24, for you to see a difference, you'd have to have some kind of an application that was pretty uncommon overall. They get into some details in manufacturing. TDP is all the same. Peak temperature is the same. The internal graphics gets interesting because the UHD graphics on the 12900, you'll notice they're identical. Why am I seeing two of the same graphics chips? This is measuring exactly the same. I don't think this is right. Pretty sure the 14900 has a different internal GPU, but maybe I'm confusing the desktop model. I'd swear this was Iris graphics and this is UHD, and the Iris graphics perform a lot better. I think this information is wrong on the. So in any event, the differences, except for the most technical and demanding users, are probably something the average user couldn't tell apart, but they absolutely could tell the difference between $500 and $1,000 every single time. I promise you, universally, they can all see that difference pretty clearly. So for what you're getting for your money here, it's unbelievable to me that you can get this much computing for under $500. Crazy. Where was this in 1982? Nick Capri contributed €5. He says, hello, Carey, Mara, and chat. Hey, Nick, welcome in. All right, let's do a real unboxing here. The reason I do this live, unscripted and unrehearsed, is it's to give my viewers a sense of what getting a new computer is like. So let's say you watch one of my videos. It doesn't have to be this one. And you see that I'm taking this out of the package for the very first time. And you decide that you like that. You go and you buy one. What you receive should match 100% exactly what I'm about to show you without edits, without cuts. You know, is there something missing? Is there damage? Does it fire up? Everything I experience should be what you're expecting. And the amount of time it takes me to get things hooked up and configured, plan for that, because you're going to need to do that too. There's no fast forward button in real life. So I want you to understand before you make your purchase what the setup is, what's supposed to be in the box. You don't have to wonder, did I get something different? Because if I already have this out of the box and I've already edited it and updated it off camera, there could be 10 hours of work that you never saw. Then you'd see that and you think, wow, isn't that great? And you go buy one and you're upset because you wanted to use it right away. Come to find out, there's a lot more setup than you thought. And you're not even sure if what you got was new because you never saw how it came out of the box. So for that reason, I try to be as clear and transparent as I can possibly be so that we're sharing this experience in real time. If you don't have time for real time, I don't know what you got time for. But this is meant to be a shared experience. This is not meant to be an advertisement or a commercial. And I want people to understand that who are new here, that this is done very differently. So if you ordered one of these, this is what you should expect to experience in real time. So as you can see, there's no prep work. There's no rehearsal. There could be a brick in this box for all I know. Does that happen? I don't know. Let's find out. Because whatever I'm experiencing, you should also experience something similar. I can't fake the live show. It would cost more in special effects than this channel would ever make. And I would have no reason to do that because this is what I do for a living. So why would I do it differently on camera? Other than to just simply, I don't know why anybody would do that, but here we go. So when you take the box, when you take the lid off the box, this is how it should be packaged. You've got some documentation, and the mini PC should be wrapped in something just to protect it from scratches and whatnot. And this is pretty common. You just pull that back, slide this out of here. And get rid of it. Now on the lid, on these units, if you remember, because we've seen this style of case from Minisforum before, it's just got these little fingerprints that say push down in the corners, and it just opens up. There's no rubber feet to remove. There's no screws to remove. Let me bring this up to the camera and show you a bit closer here what we're dealing with. There's the inside with our dual channel RAM, our fully swappable Wi-Fi card if you wanted to change it or upgrade it in the future. On top of that, we've got a little fan heatsink on the NVMe drive, which is pretty cool. But as I mentioned, just the way it ships, you don't really need to do anything to it. Probably, I'm going to guess that plug right there is for the SATA cable. If you wanted to add that 2.5-inch SATA drive to the lid. And then this is our BIOS or CMOS battery right here. That's all you need access to. You would never access this side. There's nothing user serviceable. The most you'd want to do is spray some air through there from time to time just to clear out any dust. And on the heat sinks on the bottom, on the back of it, and on the side, just a can of air, or the dusters, the electronic dusters, those are great. Just spray them in there. On the back, we just verify all the ports we looked at online. Right, our display port, our USB 4 Type-C, two 2.5 gig LANs. I think these are Realtek, but we'll check. HDMI, Oculink, two USB 2s. These are great for keyboard. We have a Kensington lock in case you're worried about somebody stealing it. That's a steel cable that locks in, and then you can wrap that other end of the cable around something immovable. Coming around the side, just air vents. This is just passively cooled in here. That's why I'm suggesting you don't add more heat. There's no fan on the lid, so you put more stuff in here, it's going to get hotter in here. If it gets too hot, the RAM and the speed of the solid-state drive can be impacted in a negative way. You've got your two USB 3 Type-A's up front, along with your audio jack and power connector there. Power button, I mean. And yeah, that's the whole thing. There's your bottom of it. Really nothing to open on the bottom. Everything you need right there, that easy to get to. As I mentioned, this is what I would call ready to eat. Take it out of the box, start using it. Putting the lid back on, super easy. Just gonna set the back in first, let it fall forward, push the two corners, you're done. No tools needed. You gotta love that. And what's great is there's nothing in there you need to upgrade. Like, that's right out of the box. That's plenty for most people. Plenty. At least in 2025. Now ask me in 2029, I might change my mind. But for now and for the next couple of years, as far as I'm concerned, that is better equipped than most computers most people use today. Just saying, in my experience, when I get called out to a business or I get called out to a consumer's home, they don't have anything with 32 gigs of RAM usually. They don't normally have a terabyte of NVMe storage. They often are only using about 100 gigs of space on average. And depending on how old their machine is, it may be SATA, it may be mechanical, it's going to be a lot bigger, and they likely have never opened it. So it's never been dusted. That's just what I deal with every day, right? Those are the people who call for service. If you're someone who does your own service, you wouldn't know this because you take care of your stuff. Most people don't. They treat it like an appliance, they turn it on, they use it, and they don't think about it until it doesn't work anymore. That's usually when I get the call. Sometimes users will live with a problem because it's not preventing them from using it, and that problem eventually gets worse and worse and worse. And then when they can't use the computer anymore, and the problem is multiplied to be 10 times more complicated than it was, that's when I get the call. Not that I'm complaining, I'm just telling you, those people aren't exactly, the people who have that attitude are not the same people who want that 14900 and 192 gigs of RAM. These are two very different groups of people. And it just so happens the most common group of people are the ones who just buy it and use it. The enthusiasts who watch the YouTube channels, they make up a very, very tiny portion of owners. Not that that's good or bad, it's just that's how it is. And so my focus when I do these reviews, they're about being practical to the average user, not to the enthusiast. Because every enthusiast, in my experience, is quite demanding to what their particular values are. There's no sort of universal like there is with the average user, which is they don't know what any of these numbers means. They just want to know, is it good? Will I like it? And my job is to understand how they're using it to make sure we're getting them something that's not only good enough for now, but will be adequate at least for a couple years ahead. Understand what their budget is, and ultimately the best test is to simply put it in the hands of the user and say, just use it, and you tell me if there's anything you don't like about it. So that's typically the way that works. It's pretty rare that I sell an end user a computer that they say it's not good enough. I don't know that that's ever happened, quite honestly. All they know is it's way faster than their old one. All right, let's see what else we've got in the box. We've got this cardboard piece here that comes out, and inside we've got it's a relatively small power brick, but I appreciate that the power cable is separated, right? So that means that I have much more cable length than just a power adapter that plugs in the wall. That means I'm not fighting with distance on where I can place the mini PC based on a 4 or 5 foot long cable. We've got easily 10 or 12 feet between this cable and this cable, and this doesn't take up a lot of space on a surge protector or an outlet where those big wall warts might cover or make inaccessible the plugs on each side. That drives me crazy. So I really prefer this design. Now, Minisforum does not make a power adapter. So what I would do is I would get a silver Sharpie and write Minisforum on it or something, just in case these get separated after a move. You definitely don't want to plug the wrong adapter in. So that's one thing I recommend. If you have a label maker and you want to make your own little Minisforum NAB9 Plus label, even better. This is going to sit on the floor. Likely no one's ever going to see it. My handwriting's terrible. I'll just write Minisforum NAB9 in a silver Sharpie, NAB9 Plus. And then I never have to worry about getting them mixed up. This is our HDMI cable. This is the SATA cable for installing that 2.5-inch drive to the lid. These are the screws to secure the 2.5-inch drive. Right here on the lid, go over to this camera. Is it that camera? Yeah. So here on the lid, you can put a 2.5-inch drive, and then you would secure it, these holes, using these screws and this cable. And that's what that's for. So you know me, I'm not going to use those. And finally in the box is the VESA bracket that also has screws separate from the other screws. That's for the VESA bracket. That's for mounting this to the back of the PC. There's an arrow that indicates which direction is up and which side should face outwards so that you don't put it on upside down and backwards, which is usually the way I do things. I laugh because it's true. So I appreciate those little reminders, especially since I work with so much different hardware. Every single day I'm working on something different. Different manufacturers, different designs, laptops, desktops, mini PCs. It does get a little overwhelming sometimes to remember manufacturer-specific processes. Then they give you that little plastic cover over the prongs there. I'm going to just take that out. We'll put all this back in here. Well, I take it back. I do need the power brick. Okay. And now we'll just set all this over here. I'll leave this up here just to remind you what we're looking at, what we're evaluating today. I'm going to put that lid back on. I'd say the downside of this lid is when I'm careless about when I pick up these mini PCs and move them around. Sometimes I squeeze them a little bit hard and I end up popping the lid up. Not the worst thing in the world. And if I only had this one mini PC in my life, it would be easy to adjust my habits and how I pick it up. But because I work on so much different equipment and I don't really think much about how I pick it up, it always surprises me. It's not hurting anything, but I'll pick it up and move it and I hear it click and I'm like, oh. But still, I prefer that versus having to remove rubber feet to find hidden screws, flip the thing upside down. Yeah, this is much, much better. In my opinion, anyway. This is a cloverleaf style, like laptop style power connector, so I'm not using the one they've included because I've already got my own just laying here on the floor. So we'll use what I have. These should all be the same. And we'll give that a plug right there. I need my keyboard and my mouse, which I keep over here. And we're going to fire this up for the first time. We're going to see what version of Windows it has installed. We'll see who makes the network interface cards, which I think are Realtek, but we'll verify that. My wireless dongle for my keyboard will go back here, and an HDMI cable. I do not plug it into the internet, not on a first boot. Whether I'm building a brand new computer and turning it on for the first time, if I'm resetting Windows on a laptop, I never plug it into the internet until after Windows is loaded. And that way I create my local user account and I'm not waiting forever for updates to download, and then it can affect your installation process. It's possible those updates are breaking something. So the best thing is to just do your Windows install or your first time boot up without any internet access. At least if you want to put the odds in your favor of not having to resolve an issue. That's why I do it that way. My preference is to avoid having problems to begin with, and I don't see any benefit to plugging the internet in right now. I only see a downside to it. Let's fire this up. Let's see if it works, first of all. Power. Oops, see, I keep picking it up and doing that. Make sure that's plugged in. That's plugged in. Don't see any power. I might be unplugged from the power strip. Give me just a second. Apparently, when I was plugging in the machine yesterday that had the big wall wart, I had to make room for it by unplugging this. See, this is why I don't like those big wall warts. That's exactly how this comes back to bite me on the butt. If that mini PC from yesterday just used a standard plug, this wouldn't be happening live and unscripted right now, making me look like I look. Not my fault I look like I look. That's the story I'm going with. All right, let me plug it back in now that we have room on the surge protector. Let's try turning it on this time. Oh, what do you know? Fires up just fine. All right, let's switch over to the output to this and see how it boots. Right there should be our output. There we go. We've got our power on self-test screen. This is our very first power on, live unscripted out of the box. This should be the exact same experience you should have step by step in exactly the same way, in the same speed, in real time. Okay, this is your standard process after you install Windows on any computer. This is very common, very ordinary. There's an initial setup process that takes a moment. And just give it the time it needs to finish whatever it's doing. If you shut it off at this point, or if you try to push it along because you're impatient, you're likely going to cause yourself all kinds of problems. Now it's booted up, it's going to go take us through our out-of-box experience, or OOBE. English United States is the default I want to see. I click yes. My keyboard language will be United States, so I click yes. Sorry, the previous one was what, region? Now this is the keyboard layout, which is US. I click yes on that. Do I want to add a second language on my keyboard? I do not, so I'll hit skip. Now, of course, it wants to connect us to a network, right? So I'm going to say down here in small print, it says, I don't have internet. Click on that, and then you got to tell it twice. Continue with limited setup. Fine, it says. So then the license agreement comes up. You have no choice but to either accept this or return the unit back to where you bought it. That's your two choices. If you don't like those terms, if you don't like the license terms, simply return the unit. It's not negotiable. All right, we're going to just put the word user in here for a username, and I'll leave the password blank, and that way it just boots to the desktop without stopping for a password. And then we'll just turn everything off but location. So our date and time and daylight saving and all that will constantly keep me updated, so I don't have to worry about my clock losing or gaining minutes over time. It'll constantly resync with the internet time servers. And if I do a search for something near me, I don't have to tell it where I am. It's not that specific. It doesn't, show my street address, but it should get the general vicinity. So if I'm looking for McDonald's near me, alternately, I could just type in McDonald's near my zip code. This becomes a nightly routine for me, by the way. What's for dinner? I don't know. What do you want? Whatever you want's fine. Well, I'm okay with what you want. Well, we've already been here and we've already been there. Where's someplace we haven't been? I know. Let me pull up Google and say food near me, and I start looking through those results. And the further down the results I go, the further the food gets. But this is how we find new places to go, and it's almost a nightly routine over here. There's a comedian I saw, and they said, the one thing they don't tell you about becoming an adult, it's not about the responsibilities you have to take on. It's not about doing what you want whenever you want and, all the downsides to going to work and paying the bills. It's trying to figure out what you're going to have for dinner every night for the rest of your life. That's what they should be telling you about adulthood. Every day, it's always the same. All right, let's see what version of Windows. Well, hold on a minute. This is in 4K, which is a little bit tough for me to read. So let me jump over here to display settings, and let me bring that to 1920 by 1080 so I can read it clearer. Right click on the start button. We're going to go to System. This machine came pre-installed with version 22H2 of Windows 11 Pro. So 23H2 came out in the fall of 23, 24H2 came out in the fall of 24. We expect a 25H2 in the fall of 25. And this should be the annual update process. These are very big updates. So we are 2 updates behind because this is a model that's 2 years old. That checks out. 12th gen, 12900HK, 32 gigs of RAM. We're verifying all that's installed. We can right-click again on the Start menu, go to our Device Manager, and we can see who's making our wireless and wired network adapters. And we've got, oh, this is an Intel, not Realtek, but Intel i226 are the 2.5 gig network adapters. Now, I don't know really what difference that makes to me, but to some of you that might make a difference. So I was wrong in my assumption, and that's why we check. So 2 Intel Ethernet 2.5 gig LAN adapters, and we've got the MediaTek wireless. Now, you know I'm not a fan of the MediaTek because you can only get your drivers from whoever MediaTek is selling the parts to. So in this case, Minisforum. But with Realtek and other card manufacturers, they might tell you, hey, it's best if you get your drivers from whoever we sold our chips to. They still offer you the driver, whatever their latest version is, which oftentimes the manufacturers don't keep up to date. And there might be a reason you want that up-to-date driver. MediaTek doesn't offer it that way. Not that I've needed to upgrade it, it just bothers me. There also may be driver issues related to Linux or other operating systems, but you could easily swap that MediaTek card out for any brand you want. This machine's very easy to open and change that stuff out. There's nothing that needs to be fixed out of the gate. I would just like to be able to update the MediaTek driver no differently than I can update the Intel driver with drivers directly from Intel, even if they do say, yeah, it's preferred if you just go right to your manufacturer. But if you don't want to do that, you know, you can take a chance and use ours. Now, I've never had that problem with the graphics drivers or network card drivers where the manufacturer's driver had to be used. Not in many years anyway. So I would like to see MediaTek get on board with that. And that's the only thing that I have to complain about with regards to the MediaTek. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. It's not inferior in any way. I just don't like that they're not doing what their competition is doing. Intel and Realtek offer you those drivers. So why isn't MediaTek doing the same? So who knows, maybe if we put enough pressure on them, they'll start changing the way they do things. In the meantime, all the drivers are preloaded, everything's ready to rock and roll. But in order for us to put 24H2 on this, and this does take a while, we're going to download the Windows Upgrade Assistant. It's a free upgrade, and it's probably going to take about an hour to get that installed. So if you buy one of these, be prepared to spend that much time. Before you start configuring your email and your printers, you want to get this thing fully updated so you're secure online first and foremost. It's also a great burn-in test, because if it can download, install, configure, and reboot 24H2 without errors, there's a really good chance that whatever you use this machine for, you're not going to get any random blue screens or problems, because that's a pretty intense process to install 24H2. It's pretty demanding on your resources, everything from your internet connection to your storage to your RAM to your processor. It's a great real-world example of a proper benchmark test and burn-in test. So I'm not opposed to that. There's actually something good from that. It should install without a problem, and that should give you the confidence then to go ahead and put your printer and set up your email and do all that and not have to worry about any incompatibility or bad RAM cropping up. Bad RAM will crop up in the form of a random blue screen error if you have it. And it oftentimes can be something you have to do pretty intense to trigger it. And that's why the install of 24H2 replicates in the real world a resource intensive task that if there is anything wrong with the machine on the upper end of things, that should expose it, and you're able to just simply return the unit within 30 days at no cost for either a refund or a replacement, whichever you prefer. You should not attempt fixing it yourself. That could take you out of warranty, and it could revoke your refundability. Not refundability, but the terms of the refund may be violated if you're Just don't try and fix it. Something brand new should not require repair universally, whatever it is. And if it does, return it. I mean, the only exception would be a car, because you can't really return a car. But everything else, just return it. Now that we're all hooked up here, I can grab my internet cable and plug it into the internet now, since we booted into Windows. And I'm going to grab my flash drive here. Now, you can just go to Windows Update and just install updates and reboot and install updates and reboot, and eventually you'll get to 24H2. It's probably going to make you install 23H2 first. It'll take you 3 times longer, but all you have to do is hit the button and walk away, reboot, hit the button, walk away, and just keep repeating that till it's finally done. For me, I'd rather just kick off 24H2 and get it done quicker. But what I want to do right now is plug my flash drive into it. And let's bring over a couple of my typical utilities here. So we're going to open the flash drive up, and we're going to bring over the free portable CPU-Z utility. I like to install VLC versus using Microsoft's Media Player, Uncle Carey's Windows 10 Optimizer. We can bring over Cinebench R23. Hardware info to monitor temps. And Crystal Disk Mark Portable to monitor drive speed performance. And I think that's all I need off this flash drive, so I will remove the flash drive and put it back in the drawer. And let's go to Crystal Disk Mark right now and see what our Gen 4 performance looks like here. I imagine we should be seeing around 5,000 megabytes per second, which would put us in a mid-range Gen 4. High-end Gen 4 would be about 7,300 megabytes per second, but that comes at a cost and additional heat. So yeah, we're getting the numbers I fully expect, and 5,000 puts you well above Gen 3, but nowhere near the peak of Gen 4. Gen 4 can go another 2,500 faster than this. However, most human beings can't see the difference. When you're loading things, the difference is in milliseconds. You'd have to be a very demanding user to notice that difference. And if you're a very demanding user, you probably need to be spending a lot more money in selecting each part that meets your absolute demanding standards. What we're looking at here is a more practical, one-size-fits-all solution at an extraordinary price. So I don't know if that's right for your personality or your expectations, but I do know it's right for most. Some people are so demanding, the only way they're ever going to be happy is if they individually select each component, but then they'll complain about how expensive it is. But you've got to be able to compromise one thing for the other. And I'm telling you, I could put this computer down in front of any of my customers, literally any of them, and there's not one of them that would say it's too slow or inadequate in any way, shape, or form. It's only the benchmarks that are poisoning the minds of the enthusiasts, in my opinion. They're getting poisoned with information that is irrelevant and is not practical in real-world usage for the vast majority of them outside of the benchmarks. So they have every right if they want to use that as their comparison, but I would much rather put it in the hands of a user and just tell them to use the damn thing, right? You can look at horsepower numbers all day. That doesn't mean the car's comfortable, easy to drive, easy to see out of, easy to get in and out of. You got to use the car. Once you're sitting in the car and driving it, then you'll tell me, does it feel fast? Don't stop looking at the numbers. The numbers don't tell me how you feel. Instead, many people are working it backwards. They're letting the numbers tell them how they should feel. That's so bizarre in my world because that's not how business works. And my business in particular is based on the customer's experience. Customers having a problem. Let me know what the problem is so I can solve it. But if the customer is poisoning their mind with information which, first of all, may not even be accurate, but they're choosing to believe it. And now, as a result, they're seeing a number they don't want to see, and they call me to say, I need you to fix this number. Give me Photoshop if that's what's going to make you happy. I'll change those numbers. That's a psychological issue. But when we have a real issue where something feels, and I want to use this word, feels, it feels slow, it feels unresponsive. I can fix that every single time. What I can't fix is somebody's fixation on numbers. There's too much faith, and there's too much, in my opinion, in the enthusiast community, focus and priority on benchmark numbers. These benchmarks have proven to be inaccurate. These benchmark numbers have proven to be unrealistic in real-world usage, to be basically unrepeatable and don't demonstrate real-world work. And some of these benchmarks have been caught cheating, working with companies secretly to give them higher numbers. In the past, Google it. Could that be going on right now? Well, until that story breaks, you should question everything you're seeing from benchmarks. What matters first and foremost, in my opinion, is does it feel fast to you? In how you use it, in the software you run, are you happy with it? Don't let a piece of software dictate your emotional state. That's all I'm suggesting. All right, so the benchmarks are pretty much on the drive what I'm expecting. They are your general Kingston level Gen 4 OEM supplier. This, again, helps keep the price down while still giving you a full terabyte of storage, which is absolutely incredible. And our read speed of 4,786 is approximately 8 times faster than a SATA drive that you could use and install and add heat. It's like that much difference. So just bear that in mind when we compare. Like a mechanical drive, you typically will get a number under 200. That's how vastly different this is. And once you're already going 40 times faster, what difference does it make if you're going 50 or 60 times faster? You're reaching a point of diminishing returns where the human mind can't even acknowledge that difference outside of benchmark measuring. There are some use case scenarios where some very large project could what's the word I'm looking for? You could be more productive if the machine could process the data faster, but I don't run into that very often. Most of the time, it's the end user that's the bottleneck. And if there was a way I could upgrade the RAM and the storage and the processor on the end user, the computer would run a lot better. But there's nothing I can do about that. So that's why I put the emphasis on the individual end user and the way that they use the computer. And if you use your computer just for benchmarks, I don't know what to tell you. That's just not a business I'm in. So it might be a fun hobby for you, but it's not like you're going to be calling and paying for service to get a different benchmark number, when usually that same money could be used to just buy better hardware if that's what you demand. All right, so I just want to clarify that because you're going to see that all over YouTube, and it just doesn't make any practical sense to me. We're going to go ahead and just save these results just to have them so I can remember that I ran this test. We'll save it as a JPEG. We'll put it on the desktop. Keep my OCD happy. As far as hardware info goes, we can see where our temps are right now, just idling and under normal usage. I don't even hear a fan. It's very, barely noticeable. It's very quiet. Come down here, bring up our core temps. In here you can see we're pretty much in the 40 degrees Celsius range under normal circumstance. Our minimum has been in the 30s and our maximum so far has reached a total of 57, which was on core 3. At some point temporarily it hit that and came back down. That's still far from 100. Let me move this over. Let's start our Cinebench test. Now bear in mind it's probably downloading updates in the background since I plugged it in, and Microsoft does that to keep you protected. We cannot rely on users to go and get their updates. Therefore, updates will happen automatically whether you like it or not. Advanced users can pause their updates, but it's sort of like not wanting to take your medicine because you're afraid the medicine's going to hurt you, and instead you get the disease that the medicine was trying to prevent you from getting. You know, pick your path, whatever you think, but for the most part, I'm very much into preventive measures. When if something can prevent a problem, such as getting your updates, it doesn't matter what those updates do. It's important you have them. They were important enough for Microsoft to pay their research and development and developers team to create them and test them, and then pay for the bandwidth just to give it to you at no additional cost. So for you to deny that like it's bad, look, that's your bed, you're going to lie in it. It's terrible advice for people to avoid updates today. It may have been a common attitude that was justifiable years ago, but it's been a long time since I've seen particular issues with updates, except to people who modify their machines. So if you're going to modify your machine in non-recommended ways, you're probably going to get consequences to that indefinitely in the future. And then, of course, if you're like most people online, you're going to blame Microsoft when it wasn't their fault. You did something you probably shouldn't have done. You could have done it months ago and you don't remember doing it. This is the world we're living in today. So if we try and keep everything as stock as possible, stop trying to out-engineer the engineers, and appreciate what was designed and built with hundreds, if not thousands, of man-hours in processing, development, testing, engineering. This is designed to give everybody who buys it, no matter how they use it, a solid, reliable experience without too much noise, without too much cost, without having to modify it like you used to have to do years ago. You don't have to do that anymore, okay? If you want to, go right ahead. But the rest of us, when I sell customers computers, the idea is that you're paying me so you don't have to do that. So when I'm recommending these machines, and if this machine has 32 gigs of RAM and a terabyte of storage, and that's not enough for you, you have to make it better, you should be building your own computer, or look for a bare bones version of the computer so you can outfit it that way. That'll save you more money to get the bare bones version, but you will spend more money to put a higher performance, more RAM and faster storage, and then you may have to fight some heat issues that you uniquely caused. Just so you know, if you use it the way the engineers designed it, you will save money and you'll have a far more trouble-free overall ownership experience. But stay away from those content creators and that information online that suggests you should be making modifications to Windows that involve getting into the registry or running any special utilities. They are almost always going to give you consequences at some point in the future. That future may not be tomorrow. It may be 3 years from now. And there'll be no way to associate forensically what the exact cause was. But the fact that it only happened to you and nobody else you know is because of something you changed on your machine. More than likely, in my experience, the users are their own worst enemies when they follow this advice that suggests they can make their computer better with registry hacks or system utility software. It does always come at a cost eventually. So if system stability and being trouble-free is important to you, leave it alone. You get your updates, you put whatever software on you need, stay away from system utilities unless they come from Microsoft. I strongly recommend you avoid them. And if you choose not to, then your consequences are yours. You've been warned. So I'm not telling you not to. Just adjust your expectations accordingly. Now, looking at our temps, as this has been running for, a little over 3 minutes, it looks like we're getting pretty up there, 90 degrees Celsius. I am starting to hear the fan for sure. I'm not having to talk over it, but I definitely hear it louder now. I want to hear it louder. I want to hear that fan speed up as the CPU heats up, and then I want to hear the fan slow down when the CPU cools down. It's doing what it's supposed to do. As you can see, it only hits these high temps momentarily. Right now, it's sitting right around the 75, 80, but it did peak out on this side right here at 90, where it's currently at 83. That's what a CPU is supposed to do. It should not sit up at 95 and stay there. If it's doing that, something's wrong. Your fans should not be loud all the time, or you've got something installed incorrectly or not properly configured. So once again, this has all been tuned by the engineers at the factory, so you don't have to try and get any more out of it. If that's your personality, you should just build a machine from scratch that's designed for you to do that. Well, you can do it with these mini PCs. That's not what they're built for. So as a result, you're going to be far more limited in what you can do, and the consequences, depending on what you do, there's not much you can do other than to undo to Control Z what you've done. I just want you to understand what you're buying. All right. So if you're the kind of person that likes to tinker with things, generally avoid mini PCs. Everything's going to be soldered down as much as possible, and that makes the mini PC cheaper using mobile parts that require less power, therefore less cooling requirement. They're able to sell them for less money because the parts cost less, and they're far more reliable because the user can't change as much stuff, causing user-created problems, which are the most common problem I solve today is problems the users caused. They're not part failures. There are part failures, but nowhere near as common. More than likely, the end user has downloaded something, installed something, or modified something, and that is probably 80% of my service calls. Seriously. I get paid the same regardless of the problem, but I'm telling you, they're not warranty service calls. So I just provide that information as a matter of fact in my business, and you do with it whatever you do with it, just so you know. I have no reason to make this information up. There's nothing in it for me one way or the other. Now, let me go back over to camera 1 here, and let me go look at the chat room and see what you guys have been saying, because I've not been paying attention. I've been in full screen mode this whole time. William Denton says hello. William Denton wants to know what we use for a browser. Because I am a YouTube content creator, YouTube is owned by Google. Chrome is also a Google product. If I choose to go against Google and to use Firefox or Edge, I could run into some issues with sites not displaying properly. For me, remember, I am making an income from this. There's no reason for me to go against the hand that's, bite the hand that feeds me. Everything is smoother for us because I am a YouTube content creator to stay within the Google product line. So our show email is a Gmail account. We check our Gmail with Google Chrome. When I'm broadcasting to you, it's through Google Chrome and OBS. Everything is on the Google platform. I don't use Microsoft OneDrive. I will use Google's Google Drive. I stay within that world because that way it's one bill that I'm paying. It's not a bill over here to this company and a bill to that company, and you check for updates this way on this product and check for updates another way on another product, and if you have a problem with this product, you reach out to these people, and if you have a problem with this, no. So for us, it's not a choice. For us to go to Firefox or Opera or Brave or Edge would, for me, be adding more complexity that's entirely unnecessary. So the reason that we use Chrome is very different from how you might choose what browser you want, because for you, it may just be what you feel like using today. I feel like using Edge. I've got a whole career writing on this. I don't choose to just roll some dice and hope Edge is going to work fine. It might. But what motivation do I have to find that out? I got no complaints with Chrome, so I'm going to stick with what works. I'm not going to try and improve it. That's what it's designed to do. When it gets updated, I get every update as soon as it's available. Same with OBS. Try to keep everything as simple as possible, and that's why we choose the Chrome browser. It wasn't really our choice. It's sort of like, if you buy a Ford car, you probably want to buy Ford parts. You might be able to make Chevy or Toyota parts work. I wouldn't recommend. Especially if you're using your car as a Uber, Lyft driver or something, and you need it for work, probably not something you should be messing around with. So these kind of questions, just so you know, you have to understand that our answers and reasons for our answers are probably not applicable to you. At the end of the day, you should just use what you like. We like having less problems, so we're staying within Google as much as possible for consistency and reliability, and one finger to point if anything goes wrong. Okay, so use whatever you like. Oh, David tells me I missed some super chats. Well, I've been full screen on the desktop. Let's go back and see what I'm missing here. I think the last one was Nick Caffrey. Gregory Howard renewed his membership, now a member for 18 months. He says hello, Carey and Mara and everyone in chat. Hey, Gregory, thanks for joining us and renewing your membership. I see Gregory Howard also contributed $20 in Super Chat. Right on. Thank you again, Gregory Howard. There's David Grant with a $5 Super Chat. He says, I just realized I've never seen you plug in the sound or test the sound. The reason for that is we've never had a sound issue to justify that test. If we were running into even one time where the sound didn't work, then I would be testing it from that point forward. The last time I had sound that didn't work was probably about 10 years ago. It's just standard and routine now. It's not what it used to be. I think a lot of people have PTSD and have had experience from the past that likely hasn't happened in many years, but they still they still worry about it. There's seemingly no reason for me to check the sound. I've never had a computer in the last 10 years where I had the complaint, hey, the sound isn't working. When we were setting up Mara's new computer, we couldn't get sound out of the speakers, but that was because the speakers weren't turned on. So nothing to do with the computer at all. Just didn't know how to use the speakers. It was like a hidden button. And, you know, felt like an idiot. But I didn't know the knob that turned also pushed in. Once I realized that, the sound worked. There was nothing wrong with the computer or the driver. So that's why I don't test it. The other reason I wouldn't test it is YouTube is very, very aggressive at copyright violation notices. So almost anything I play you, number one, you're not going to be able to hear the quality of it because I have no control of your speakers or how you're listening to me. Number two, again, the copyright issue, right? Depending on what I play. And of course, number three, there's never been an issue as far as I know that needs resolution.
Yeah, but that button on the speakers was ridiculous.
The button on the speaker, it was just a speaker design. And, you know, if I would have read the directions, Oh,
no.
I've had those speakers before and that button did not push in before. So they've changed the design.
Did not
We're talking about the Bluetooth enabled Klipsch 5.1 and normally has on the version I have, you turn the volume knob and it clicks off. On the version you have, the volume is just volume. And when you push the button once, it goes into Bluetooth mode and the wired doesn't work. You push the button again, then it goes into wired mode and shuts the Bluetooth off. And if you push the button again, it shuts the speakers off. So it does three functions. I've never seen speakers like that. So we were scratching our head trying to figure out how is this high-end computer not giving us sound? But everything was new. The speakers were brand new. The computer was brand new. It was user error. That's all.
For sure. Check your email.
Oh, great. All right. We'll do that here in a second. Let me just get caught up with the chat room. So yeah, I appreciate the question, David, and thank you for your super chat. Mark Gaines with a 10-pound super chat says, Carey, I used your CD Keys discount code to activate my Windows. Thank you. Right on. Well, we're glad we could save you some money and you know, get you a legit license code for Windows that you're not overpaying for Microsoft. And it's a smooth experience. It's pretty rare anybody reaches out to us. The last couple people that reached out to us a few months ago had a misunderstanding of how it works. Once we explained it to them, it was all smooth sailing. So a lot of times, a lot of what my career has been the last couple of years is educating the consumer to have the right process or the right expectation. And that has been the most challenging technical issue to fix. Fixing actual technical computer problems is far easier than teaching the end users because they often approach you with a question that assumes they understand when they don't understand. So I have to go before the question. So if they say, someone reached out and they wanted to know where they can get Windows 11 23H2. They didn't want to put on 24H2 because they heard it has all kinds of problems. Okay, that's not a question I can help you with. Here's the question I can help you with. What problem are you having with 24H2? For me to advise somebody to put an old version of Windows on their computer would be grossly negligible as a professional technician. I would never do that. So I need to know what toxic information did this user get online from somebody they believe that would convince them not to even try 24H2. It's all in their head. It's never actually happened. Or did you try to install 24H2 and you actually had a problem? In which case, the solution is not to roll back. I laugh because it's so oversimplified and ridiculous to even consider that as an option. We don't do that in the real world as a professional. That's not an option. I cannot go in to a big corporation like Tesla or Ford or somebody, some big manufacturer or big corporate headquarters, and say, oh, by the way, this one employee has a problem with their computer with 24H2, so I'm making the executive decision to put 23H2 on it and jeopardize the entire security integrity of the entire corporation worldwide. No, that's just not an option. So the hard part for me right now is getting users to tell us, what is the computer? Is it a desktop? Is it a laptop? Did you build it yourself? How long have you had it? Give us some basic information. I don't know you. I don't know anything about you. You need to introduce yourself, and you need to tell us a little bit about the equipment you have. I don't need to know every screw, but I need some basic information. Then I need to know, what is the problem? And if the problem is you reading toxic, inaccurate information from loudmouths online who are very loud and confident, but also arrogant and obtuse because they're completely wrong, you're getting bad information. But I'm making an assumption because you're not telling me. So don't let me assume, and don't let me use my imagination. Explain to me how you got to this idea that installing 23H2 was a good idea. But no, that's not what they do. They say, how do I get 23H2? Why would you want? It doesn't make any sense. The question makes no sense. What's wrong with 24H2? Well, I've read a lot of things about it. I read that I'm 10 feet tall and I weigh 400 pounds. I'm not, but that's what I've read. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about you, not somebody else. I'm not interested in gossip and hearsay, and it's so ridiculous. Are you specifically having an issue with it? If so, what is it? Let me do my job and use my experience to find your resolution. Or is the problem all up in your head? I am not a psychologist. I cannot help you. So sometimes people don't realize when they're asking for help that they don't consider, I need to know what your hardware is. I need to know, what CPU do you have? Is this something you built? How old is it? I've had people wanting to fix computers that are 15 years old. No. New computers are so inexpensive, there's no excuse to hold on to that old hardware. You could buy a brand new computer for $120. You can buy used ones even cheaper. I can't see where it makes any sense in 2025 to hold on to a 15-year-old computer. Now, maybe years ago this made more sense. It doesn't make sense today. So just to enable somebody to continue using old, obsolete hardware that's only going to break more often only opens me up to more phone calls and more support more often from that same user over and over. All you're doing is procrastinating, and it's inevitable. So sometimes we deal with users that are just going to use it until it dies. Well, I'm not helping them keep it alive, because what it would cost me to help you is more than that computer's worth. So if they want to do it on their own, I can't stop them. But if they want to involve me and I charge them for it, I'd much rather see them take the money that I'm charging them and go buy yourself a new budget machine. It'll cost you less. You have a new warranty. You'll get it in 2 days from Amazon or faster. It's instant gratification, and you're good for years. But, you know, people are people. These aren't technical issues. These are attitude issues and mindset issues. And I'm seeing more of that now in 2025 than I've ever seen in my career. Just FYI. The amount of actual computer repair we do now is minor stuff. It's usually just configuration stuff. I'm not changing power supplies on hard drives very often. It used to be pretty routine. Now it's pretty rare. So just food for thought. There's our friend Mitch Morrison joins us and says hello. Welcome in to Mitch. Barry Klein joins us, says hello. I see Jim KJ3N, Dazzle555, and Gilberto Gonzalez saying hello. Welcome in, everybody. I think I got caught up on super chats. Let me check the email, which means I need my glasses. Oh, I bet you our first Cinebench test is finished. So let me start that while we continue checking the email after that. Go over here. Yeah, that test finished. There's your score, right? Click start on this test and bring the temperature monitor back up. So 91 is the max we've hit so far. We're good there. And let's see, back over to camera 1 again. Now let me get my glasses and let's check those emails. So again, I am more than happy to answer any technical question you want to put it in there. If I can answer it, I will. We also have a very educated, well-informed chat room that may also provide you with solutions. But I want you to understand, I cannot see what computer you're using. I can't see what operating system. You have to tell me that. So anytime you're asking a technical question, I need 2 basic pieces of information from you. Is this a new problem? You've had the computer for a while? Or is this a new computer? And if so, either way, what computer is it? A laptop, a desktop? How old is it? How long have you had it? Some kind of information along that line. Is this a new problem? When did the problem start? And are you running Windows 10 or Windows 11 or what? I need that information every single time. Just want to tell you that. Pretty much, there's pretty rarely an exception where I don't ask for that. So I would prefer if I didn't have to stop your question and have you go backwards and start over again, because I have no idea what we're comparing it to. So that is always baseline for technical support anywhere you go. Everybody always needs to know that, just so you know. Then I want to know what the problem is. I don't want to know what you think the solution is. Oh, mechanics and doctors love that, right? I think you just need to do this. Okay, that's fair, but maybe give me the opportunity, being the person that does this for a living, for you to benefit from my experience, and let's see what solution I come up with or what my diagnosis is. Will it align with yours? I don't know yet because you haven't told me what the problem is. So instead of suggesting what the answer is, tell me what it is you're trying to solve. Take advantage of my experience. If you want to play a game and guess just to see if you're right, that's fine with me. But when somebody just says, how do I do this, but they won't tell me why, usually it's a waste of my time because it has nothing to do with their problem. I'm just telling you. And it gets frustrating spending so much time with people only to figure out all you did was spin your wheels. Because when we found out what you were really asking, we get to a much simpler and faster solution, usually. William Denton sent us an Amazon gift card of $50. Right on. Thank you, William. We appreciate your generosity, your friendship, and obviously for being a part of this amazing community here. Robert Barnes sent a $50 Amazon gift card. No, I'm sorry, that's a PayPal. $50 PayPal contribution. He said, here's a small contribution to the best tech computer show that's full of wisdom, practical knowledge, straight talk, entertaining, with a splash of humor sprinkled in. Just a splash? That's a tough crowd. Thank you, Robert. Appreciate you. And of course, Mark Gaines with a very generous PayPal contribution, as well as his super chat and his membership. We can't thank Mark enough, and sending us pictures of his build, sharing his build with us. I love the community, and this community works when we're all contributing to it. I don't mean financially. I mean just contributing, saying hello, sharing your builds, asking your questions. Don't be afraid to ask your questions. Even if my answers are stern, they're stern as in the way that Gordon Ramsay might teach somebody to cook. It's kind of a tough love kind of thing. It's not anything you should be ashamed of or feel bad about. It shouldn't discourage you from asking questions. I'm just a straight shooter. I get right to it. It's not personal. And it bothers me if someone's afraid to ask a question. My methods tend to be a bit candid, to to the point, and sometimes people, I don't know, they need to be coddled. I'm assuming we're all adults and we don't need to be coddled. There's nothing intended to be insulting. There's no intention to make anybody feel bad. It's just, here's, like explaining I need this information. It's not to belittle any. It's just help me help you. Be sure and provide that information, not just to me, but anybody you're asking for help. Because without it, it limits how much help or the accuracy of the help you're going to get in return. So you don't do it for me, do it for you. That's all I'm trying to say. There's a lot of words for me to get there, but yeah, you should be used to that by now. Mark Leibowitz joins us, says hello. Skeeter says the PC you're using has DDR4. Which is better, DDR4 or DDR5, and why do some companies put both in? Nobody puts both in. It's one or the other. DDR4 is a technology from a couple of years ago. DDR5 is the latest tech. DDR5 is not automatically better in the sense that what you think is better and what I think is better is very different. There's no such thing as better. It's subjective to the individual who's deciding it. Is a Twix candy bar better than a Reese's peanut butter cup? Is that better than a Kit Kat chocolate bar? How much money you're paying and how you use it determines what's better for you. But just because it's better for you doesn't mean it's better for everybody. So just bear that in mind, that everybody's unique. Everybody has individual expectations, values, and budgets, and use a computer in a unique way. And those options are out there to accommodate the needs of the users. When it comes to DDR5, when you're using a very high-end processor, such as a 14th gen, high scale i9 or a Ryzen 9 latest, $600 processor, you can benefit from having faster RAM. But if you put the faster RAM into an older processor or even an i5 or an i3, a lower end, there's no performance benefit. It only adds to the cost. So is that better? I guess it depends which way you're looking at it. DDR5 is the newest tech. The newest also means it's more expensive and it's more capable. So unless it's paired with also the latest high end of newest tech, you could see a benefit. Otherwise, you're just spending more for your RAM. But again, it is really up to the individual to decide how they want to spend their money and where they see value. This would never be DDR5 compliant because DDR5 did not exist when this came out. They didn't make this with a crystal ball. So not only did it not exist, there'd be no benefit if it did exist because the CPU can only go so fast. You can have the fastest car in the world, but if you're driving on the road, you cannot go any faster than the car in front of you. So it doesn't matter what your car's capable of if the traffic you're in is limiting how you can drive it anyway. In much the same way, we could put really fast RAM in a computer, but if we don't have a fast enough processor to utilize it, then the processor is the slow car in front of us. So if that's the way it's going to be every day all the time, what's the point of spending the extra money on the faster RAM? It makes no sense. So again, there's a way you can look at it where it's beneficial on the high end of things, or total memory capacity being higher, which isn't necessarily a good thing either. A lot of people think more is better. It doesn't work that way in life with anything. A couple of aspirin to solve a headache are a good thing. Taking the whole bottle at once, not a good thing. So in every aspect of life, even money, having enough money is good. Having too much money, it'll kill you early. Just worrying about people stealing it and people asking you if they find out you've got it, to guilt trip you into giving some of it. It's a nightmare, so I'm told. So we're always trying to find that middle ground that's right for each one of us. And what's better for you is not necessarily better for anybody else on this planet. And the reverse is true. So let's just wipe our mind of what's better. You might as well go back to the candy bars. Which candy bar is the best one? And explain it to me, how you can tell me with a straight face that everybody would agree with you. It's the same thing. Personal preference and values and expectations. Anon says he has a board with DDR2 and DDR3. Yes, they did make boards back in the day that would take one or the other. You could not use both. You'd have some DDR2 sockets and DDR3 sockets. They don't do that anymore, and they haven't done it since, by the way. So just because they used to do that 20 years ago, don't think they're still doing that today. So with DDR4 and DDR5, it's one or the other. You cannot have both. There used to be triple channel memory where you put the memory in threes. We don't do that anymore. We now have dual channel where you put the memory in pairs, or quad channel where you put the memory in fours. Triple channel doesn't exist. It did exist a long, long time ago, and it didn't stay around very long. So trying to use that by today's standards, it doesn't work anymore. Everything's changed. Mark Leibowitz said, let's see, I've got a server rack computer case in my spare parts collection, and I think it might have an old Core 2 motherboard in it. Wow. He says I'll have to go and look at its RAM slots. So the Core 2s, I think those were DDR3. Can't quite remember. Could have been DDR2 or DDR3. That's going back a long time. Which mouse do I want? This one over here. Nick Caffrey says, I think Skeeter's referring to NVMe slots. So the NVMe slots is just a storage slot, and they have generation 3, generation 4, and generation 5, each with a maximum capacity to carry twice as much data, potentially maximum than the generation before it, assuming you have a drive that's capable of doing that. So again, it's back to money. This computer does not support Gen 5 NVMe. Gen 4 is the most you're going to get, PCIe Gen 4. And again, the difference when every time you double the speed, the amount of speed you get on the benchmarks looks impressive, but the amount of speed you experience is almost non-noticeable. So for example, let's take this the other way. Let's go backwards. If it takes you 10 seconds to boot up, let's just say, and we could cut that in half by changing out something. We've cut 10 seconds down to 5 seconds. And let's just say the cost to do that is a few $100s. Is it worth a few $100s to save 5 seconds at boot up? Let's say you do that again, and now you can take your 5-second boot up down to 2.5 seconds. For the same cost, doubled again, right? So we go from 10 to 5, spend that money again, we go to 2.5. Now instead of 5 seconds in return, we're only getting 2.5 seconds savings in return. See what I'm getting at when I mention the point of diminishing returns? Once you reach a certain amount of return that keeps doubling or halving, you reach a point where you can't even tell anymore, where the difference is so negligible in the scheme of things, you'd have to be a machine to know the difference. So a Gen 3 NVMe drive that can run its 3,600 megabytes per second versus a Gen 4 that can run 7,200, 7,300, versus Gen 5 that can run about 14,500. Now there's Gen 6 that can run at about 30,000, and then they're already certifying Gen 7 right now. That's going to run at 60,000. You're just not going to see it. You're going to see it in your bank account. But at some point, your boot up speed isn't going to change by more than a couple seconds. So the amount you're spending could double and triple, but what you're getting back for that is less and less and less. So we've now taken that 5 seconds and we cut it in half to 2.5 seconds. Then we spend the money again, and now we drop the 2.5 seconds to 1.25 seconds, and then we spend the money again. You can keep doing the math on this. We keep getting less and less and less in return. The point of diminishing returns. So what that is for you is entirely up to you. But when we talk about DDR4 versus DDR5, Gen 3 versus Gen 4 versus Gen 5 NVMe, more than likely, it's nothing for you to worry about unless you're having a problem you're trying to solve. Or you've just got a lot of money and you just want the best and you don't care if you need it. But I'm not the right guy for that. I'm the right guy to get you aligned with the right amount of budget to meet your current and future needs versus just trying to be the fastest kid on the block. I don't play that game. I think it's a dumb game, and you'll never stay on top very long because the technology moves too fast unless you just have an endless wallet. And to me, spending money to solve problems is not a technical problem. That doesn't require any education whatsoever. If I was born into wealth and I could just spend my parents' money to buy whatever I wanted and I didn't have to earn it myself, I probably don't need it to begin with because I've already got the money. So what am I working for? So anyway, you know, there's this deep philosophy of people being fascinated with the latest and greatest, but most people can't afford that and have no real reason to use it because the difference is usually milliseconds. And very few people that are human beings can notice or measure that. And those who can, they can usually afford to pay for it. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. Once again, if there's a problem you're trying to solve, we're certainly happy to help you solve it. But as far as understanding the technology goes, it's very difficult to tell you what's better than something else without knowing what you're using it for and how much money you've got to spend, because those play a big factor in determining when you're just, in my opinion, wasting money, overbuying far more than you'll use. That's why I say the way this comes equipped out of the box, for probably 90% of computer owners out there, they're blown away by just how this arrives without having to do anything to it. It's ready to rock and roll. There's no upgrade necessary. And I pity the fool who would upgrade this right out of the box. Are you kidding me? That's not enough for you? Then you shouldn't have bought it. That's the way I look at it. Keep it under warranty. Take advantage of the experience of the engineers and the team that had to work among all kinds of restrictions so that everybody they sold this to around the world would all have a positive experience regardless of how they used it. The minute you start modifying it for your specific use, you're going to have your specific problems that nobody else is going to have. Flat out. And if you're okay with it, I'm okay with it. Just be prepared. If you go down that route, you open that door. What's behind that door, I can't say. But if you just leave that door closed, that possibility is off the table, or it's at least significantly less likely. So anyway, let's see what else. Yeah, John Paul Bacon's talking a bit about the M.2 interface versus the protocol NVMe versus SATA. And Jim KJ3N mentions content creation is very different than browsing the web. Well, sure. Or, you know, if you're doing accounting, or if you're in a legal office, if you're running databases, if you're scheduling appointments or running a restaurant or a hotel, need reservations and point of sale and all this other stuff, it's all different requirements. You know, we don't need a liquid-cooled RGB computer at the hotel to schedule reservations. You can use it, but why would you spend all that money and take up all that desk space unless it's on display to impress your customers? Charlie Purdy wants to know if I have any information on the new USB 4 version 2 that doubles the bandwidth from 40 gigabits to 80 gigabits per second. I did read a little bit about this a few weeks ago, but I can't really remember what it said, but I can do a quick search on this. USB 4 version 2, also known as USB 80 gigabits per second, doubles the data transfer speed of the original USB 4 standard. It utilizes PAM3 signaling for increased efficiency, whatever that means, and it maintains compatibility backwards with existing USB-C cables and connectors. When will we see it? Basically, Thunderbolt 5 is an implementation of USB 4 using the new abilities of 80 gigabit per second and updated DisplayPort support. Laptops and peripherals like the Apple MacBook Pro, the M4 Pro or M4 Max with Thunderbolt 5 support, the Razer Blade 18 from 2024, Thunderbolt 5 support. Clevo's got a laptop, a Windows laptop with USB Thunderbolt 5 support. There's an OWC branded Thunderbolt 5 dock and a Kensington Thunderbolt 5 triple 4K docking station with up to 140 watts power delivery through that, compatible with the standard. So I guess it's already out in the form of Thunderbolt 5. When we start seeing USB 4 version 2, I'll let you know, but I don't know when it's actually going to be cost effective and implemented, and also why. If you had it, and here's my question for you, Charlie, only because I'm curious, what would you use it for? Genuinely, sincerely, what would you use that for? Because I'm trying to picture in my head a use case scenario and I got nothing. I just can't imagine where USB 4 at 40 gigabits per second doesn't far exceed my needs. I can't, there must be something that you need it for that I'm not considering. And I'd like to know what it is so I don't make that mistake in the future. Let's go back over here just for a minute just to see how we're progressing along. We're just at about 2 hours already of today's broadcast. Desktop. Okay, final shots here of our numbers, scores rather. Multi-core score, single core score. And then our final temps, it looks like we never exceeded 91. We averaged in the 50s, which is a very good average. The fans were always very acceptable and never got that loud, and right now it's whisper quiet. So with that, I will, whoops, back. Close this, we'll close this. I'm going to head over to Windows Update because I imagine it's already downloaded updates. Your version of Windows has reached end of service. Oh, well, there you go. This version of Windows, Microsoft no longer supports it. So that means we have to put on 23H2 or 24H2. Now, 23H2, you're going to get this message very soon, which is another reason you shouldn't be using 23H2. This is in your near future. In order for you to maintain your support for Microsoft Windows 11, you want to be running the latest version of Windows 11. So what I'm going to do is simply go to Microsoft's website and get Windows 11 directly from Microsoft. It is free. If you have Windows 11 now, any future version of Windows 11 is free for you. And it should happen automatically. But in this case, we have a brand new machine that doesn't want to update because Microsoft says, we're not updating that anymore. It's up to you now to update it. Now, the average user might say, well, how do I do that? Well, I'm going to show you. We're going to go right into the search engine here, and we'll just type in download Windows 11, right? It couldn't be any easier. The search results right at the top should take you to www.microsoft.com. Download Windows 11. That's the real thing. Now, there's a few ways we can get Windows 11, and the way we want to do that with a pre-existing Windows install is to use the Windows 11 Installation Assistant. So we're going to download that now. It's a very quick download. Right up here, we'll open that file, say yes to the user account control, and we can close this browser window out because I don't want to confuse you with too many open windows. Now it says I've got to run the PC Health Check app to make sure you're compatible. To do that, get the PC Health Check app. We click on that. Again, it's a very small download. We click on it once it's completed the download. And once again, We're going to go through a small install process. We accept the license terms, hit install, and within seconds, again, it's a small application. And you can, by the way, remove both of these things when you're done installing. You can go to your apps, part of your settings, and just uninstall the Windows 11 Installation Assistant and the Windows PC Health Check. Once all your updates are done, you don't have to keep it on your system if you don't want to. Now it's installed. Open Windows PC Health Check is what we want. So I hit finish. I'm going to close this. I'm going to close this. Back over here, use PC Health Check. Okay, so that was where we were. Check now. This PC meets all Windows 11 requirements. Perfect. That's all I needed to do. So when I come back here, use the PC Health Check. We did. So refresh. It says, you're good to go. Accept the license agreement, and that's it. Now you just wait. We can close all this other stuff out. In the meantime, we don't need it anymore. It's going to download the latest Windows 11 24H2, be it Home or Pro, whatever you've got now. It's all free, and you just have to sit and wait. Just leave it alone. Let it do what it's going to do. While I'm waiting, I'll just check my power settings because I don't want the monitor to go to sleep on me. And it's by default set to never, so that's perfect for demonstration purposes here, where I don't want my video being turned off while I'm broadcasting to you. And you'll see that download was very fast. This upgrade, depending on the hardware you've got, this could take an hour. For us, I'm not sure, we're already on step 2. That means we've downloaded and verified our download. We're on the final step, which is the longest step. And it's basically installing Windows from scratch. It's a whole new version of Windows 11. Although it shares the name Windows 11, it's essentially like Windows 11 Service Pack 4. That's what they would have called this back in the day. So if you can build a new machine with Windows 11 24H2, that's a better install than building a new machine, putting an old version of Windows 11 on it, and then updating it, because then you get a sloppier install. But if you've already got Windows 11 and you don't want to have to reinstall and reconfigure it, then it's easier to just do the free upgrade to the latest version of Windows 11 and keep you updated, secure with all the latest bells, whistles, and features that 22H2 doesn't have and will never have. It's something a lot of people don't talk about. The install's happening way too fast. Like I don't understand how we're at 71%, but this should take at least 20 minutes. So we'll keep an eye on it. And what I'll do is I'll just put camera 1 in the corner here so we can see in real time how long this takes on a fast computer that's well equipped with regards to the speed and capacity of the RAM and storage, because that does have a big impact on your installation time. So I'll just put myself down here for now, and let me go back over to the chat and see what's going on. Charlie Purdy, when I asked what he would do the 80 gigs per second, how would he use that? He says probably has no use for it. He's just curious. Fair enough. I mean, I'm curious as well, but I'm not concerned. Like, I'm not excitedly waiting for it. You know what I mean? Like, when it's available, it's available. I don't have any immediate use for it. And even if I had it, I still don't have any use for it. It might be fun to test it and see what it's capable of, but I just can't imagine any real world scenario that myself or my customers would benefit from. Likely the only thing I've got to plug into it would be 40 gig per second maximum, and even that I only have 2 devices. So that's after a year I only have 2 devices. But you never know, technology changes quick. There might end up being something we all have to have that utilizes Thunderbolt 5 or the latest, USB 4 version 2. I just can't even imagine for the life of me what that would be. But that's usually the way the technology works. So it's kind of a chicken before the egg. They've got a solution before a problem. And it may never, ever solve any problem. You just have to wait and see. Arnold Albert wants to know if I have any thoughts on Acer Predator GM7000 NVMe. I don't think I've ever used one, so I don't know anything about it. I'm just scrolling through the chat, just kind of looking through any questions I might have missed. Also, feel free to ask a question again, just to bring it back to my attention. Barry Klein mentions he reboots his computer so rarely that he couldn't care less about his boot time being 10 seconds, or faster. It's just not something that's done very often, and would not be a priority to spend money to make that any faster, because he doesn't see any benefit from having it. And that's the debate, right? Is you get a lot of these YouTube channels that are enthusiasts showing you what's possible, but not what's practical. It doesn't make sense, a lot of it. It's just because we can. Okay. I mean, if you want to watch videos that serve a purpose of saying, here's what we can do for no apparent purpose, and we're going to spend a lot of money. There's a channel called Whistling Diesel, and they'll buy a $100,000 Cybertruck and immediately destroy it, just completely demolish it, just to see how durable it is. I don't know where all that money's coming from. They find it fun. It's certainly entertaining. There's no way they're making that $100,000 back on that video. Economically, it makes no sense. And the types of torture they put their vehicles through doesn't make any sense. They're not replicating real world usage scenarios. They're just trying to break it. I guess that's a form of entertainment. It's very expensive. If I had that money, I just don't think that's how I'd spend it. But, you know, to each their own. It's definitely not a good review video. It doesn't help me decide whether or not to buy a Cybertruck or compare it to a Ford F-150. That information is completely useless, because nothing he does is anything I would do. I can't imagine even doing one of those things. And by the time he's done, the trucks are ready for the scrapyard. Just like that, in a matter of a few days of filming, they've taken a brand new, perfectly good working truck, completely demolished it with intention, because they wanted to see what would happen if. And apparently, economically, this works. There's no way. There's no way he's earning $100,000 back to pay for that truck. There's something else going on to finance these videos. I'd love to know what it is. But hey, you know, maybe he's born into wealth, or maybe he hit the lottery. I don't know. So again, I'm just scrolling through the chat. So if you want to interact with me, now is the time to do it. Well, I guess it's that last part of the install that takes the longest, huh? We jumped to 71%, and I mean, rather quickly. And then from that point forward, it's taking a long time. What you need to understand is a progress meter is not an estimated time remaining. These are two different measures. Percentage complete has to do with literally how far along the process is come, where 100% is complete. But the first 71% of the process were very quick. The next 29% are much, much slower. So it is not a measure of time in the sense of time remaining. It is literally a measure of progress. So it's like, let's say, for example, I'm going to walk a mile. But that mile I'm walking isn't completely flat. In fact, the first 3/4 of that mile are flat. So I make really good time, and I'm 75% of my way to completing that 1 mile walk. But that last 1/4 mile, that's right up a hill. So I'm not going to be walking at the same pace. I may have to stop and take a break. because it's at an incline. So therefore, that next quarter mile could take 2 times longer than the first 3/4 of a mile. I still achieved the same amount of progress, right? When I told you I did 3/4 of the mile, I wasn't lying. And you say, well, if you walk 3/4 of a mile in 15 minutes, you should have 5 more minutes to go to. Well, no, because now I have to traverse up through the woods and up a hill or whatever. That's going to massively slow me down. So it may be another 30 minutes before I finish that last quarter. That's what a progress meter is. Please stop confusing a progress meter with a time remaining meter. These are 2 different measures. Just so you know. Some people are like, I don't get it. How can it be so wrong? It's not wrong. You're interpreting it wrong. Dazzle555 wants to know, how do I check which version of Windows I have? Just right-click on the Start button, just as you've seen me do here every single time I bring a mini computer up here. What do? I want to see what version of Windows we have. And the way I do that is always the same. And I will show you again. You go to your Start button, whether it's Windows 10 or 11, right-click on the Start button and select System. And in System, it tells you your processor and your RAM. And if you scroll down to Windows specifications here, it says Windows 11 Pro, and then it says version. Here it says 22H2. We want to see 24H2. So you don't need any special utility software, nothing like that. It's all built right into the operating system. And then, of course, when we want to look at the device manager, we do the same exact thing. We go to our Start button, right-click, and this time choose Device Manager, and we can see what kind of network adapter we have or what kind of display adapter that we have. And there you go. So hopefully that'll resolve any concerns. There's multiple ways to do this, by the way. That's just the way I choose to do it. So you can ask 5 different people this question, and you could potentially get 5 different answers on how to get your Windows version. So just so you're aware, this is not the only way. It's the way I do it. Colin Hunt with a £5 super chat. Thanks, Colin. Dazzle says, mine does not do that. So Dazzle, help me out here. What is mine? Like I don't know unless you tell me. Are you on a desktop, on a laptop? Are you using Windows 10 or Windows 11? You know, help me out here, because I guarantee it does do that. It absolutely does. When you're blaming the technology, you are preventing yourself from overcoming that obstacle of education. You're doing something differently than I'm showing it. Every computer running Windows 10 or 11 does this. But first, I need to know, what are you using? It's a computer you built. You should know, at least if you're running Windows 10 or Windows 11. As far as I know, you cannot disable that. You're either not doing it right, or your mouse isn't configured properly. Something isn't connecting here. And we can work through that once we know a little bit more about what's on your side of things. But I promise you, it does work like that. It doesn't seem possible. But here's what happens. Sometimes people say, you know, I've got this problem, and it's absolutely impossible to solve, and I've tried this and this and this. Now, if I buy into their story, then I have to conclude, based on the limited information they offered me, the same conclusion they have. This is not possible. But if I have the information they're not offering me, then it's possible. So my challenge is to figure out what you're not telling me, and that will explain it. How do I know what it is? That's the challenge in this job, right? Is to kind of extract the information that is not being volunteered. Put a bright light in your face and interrogate you. But we'll get there. I'm sure it's something simple. He has a Windows 10, an i5 8500 Dell. So just as an alternative, right, rather than There's no reason why you can't. When you right click on your start menu, put your mouse over the start button, hit your right mouse button. Tell me what you see. I guess that's a good place to start. %. Dazzle says, I get the same as you. Okay, but you just told me. So again, you got to help me out here. Did you see the option for system? And if so, you select it with your mouse and you use the left, not the right, you use the left mouse to make your selection. The right mouse button brings up the selections. The left mouse button is to select which of those options you want. Arnold Albert, I've already answered your question. So if you want to rewind the video. He says, I click system and I get a different screen. All right, so what is the screen you're seeing? What does it say at the top? So in other words, when I, just for an example here, if I go to, back over to this machine, let me go full screen, and I right click. Now this is Windows 11, okay? So you're not gonna see a Windows 11 screen on Windows 10. You're gonna see a Windows 10 screen. But when I go to System, right here, the very top of the window should say System and About, and it should have the name of the computer, device specifications. Does your screen say System and About? I'm trying to figure out what screen you're looking at. Anon says, after System, click About. Is that a difference in Windows 10? Because I'm not aware of that, but yeah, give that a shot. After System, click About. That's great advice there in the chat room from a community member here, Anon. Dazzle555 says, your PC is being protected at the top of the screen. So as I mentioned, there are numerous ways you can check the version of Windows if Windows 10's interface is different. I haven't seen a Windows 10 computer in quite some time, so it's hard for me to imagine what was different. To me, they were always the same, but I may not be remembering it correctly. But there's lots of other ways. You could, for example, let me go back over to the mini PC here. We could close this and we can click on Windows 10, you'd click Start and Run. And in the Run box, type in CMD. It's the command prompt, and hit Enter. And when you hit Enter, you get this black like DOS box opening. And just type in WinVer, which is short for Windows version, and press Enter. And that should bring up your Windows 11 information, or your Windows information, be it 10 or 11. Let me know if that works for you. There's another 3 or 4 ways I can show you, but I don't want to overwhelm you. So typically just right-clicking. But if you're running an older system, get used to this. Get used to not being able to follow what anybody online is showing you because you're running an old, obsolete operating system. And, well, it's not quite obsolete yet. It will be in October. It's coming very soon. But everything's moving forward. And this is the disadvantage of holding on to older equipment or not upgrading to the latest operating system, is you're going to experience things differently. And the more time goes on, the harder it's going to be for people to help you. That being said, this is a pretty easy thing to figure out. And as I mentioned, there's numerous ways to do it. The way it's not working for you is simply because you're using an older version, and I just can't remember, unless I see it, where it's different. But that's why you have alternate ways of checking it. Dazzle says WinVer works. There you go. There you go. So now you know. So hopefully that helps you. Oh, and my browser just crashed. I'm just waiting on this update to finish. So if you have any questions or you want to interact with me, you're certainly welcome to. Again, we're just looking for kind individuals. If you can't be nice, you're not welcome here if you're not nice. I don't know why being nice has to be a requirement, and it's not the default, but that's the world we live in today, where people effectively use bullying to entertain themselves. So those people will get banned, by the way, as we continue to protect our community. But if you're nice, we certainly would love to have you here and to have you join our community. It's far more rewarding for both of us to just simply participate versus just not being here at all. We have an amazing community here, and for you to not be a part of it or to keep yourself out by being rude or simply not participating is punishing you. It's not punishing us, because we have some great friendships here, and it's something I look forward to, hanging out with familiar names and people here in the chat that you'll never know if you don't participate or you're not kind. So that's its own punishment. Paul Connolly joining us, saying hello. Martin Barr David said, why does my computer not sleep? Sleep mode has been a nightmare for techs since it was created. But the reason sleep mode was created was to preserve battery life. So in particular on a laptop, that's why sleep mode was created to begin with, or hibernation mode. Sleep and hibernation are very similar in how they work. Hibernation actually shuts the computer down, and sleep is just sipping power very lightly. With a desktop computer, just if you don't want any problems, let your monitor go to sleep, but don't let anything else go to sleep. Not your hard drive, not your hardware. It's just as harsh on the hardware to wake it back up and hit it with that voltage. That's where you're going to run into problems, and problems not waking up. If, on the other hand, what you have is a laptop or a tablet, something that operates off battery, then sleep mode is a very important feature to extend your battery life. So to force sleep to work on something that doesn't have a battery is typically a temporary solution. Oftentimes, sleep and hibernation modes in the past have had driver compatibility issues, particularly with video drivers. And you get a new video driver after you spend hours solving this problem that doesn't benefit anybody who's plugged in, by the way. Just shut the computer off if you're done with it. Pick a lane is, I guess, what I'm trying to say. Because to travel down the path to try and fix that problem isn't really fixing anything. It's not solving any problems. It's just going to cause that same problem again after another driver update or Windows update. It's inevitable. And us in IT, I'm sure Mark Leibowitz has dealt with this, our default is just turn that off. Unless you have a reason to tolerate that, which would be preserving batteries. It's not worth the effort in the ongoing fight to keep it working, because your payback on that is nothing. It's just like, well, if I've got a bell, it should ring. You don't need the bell. You know what I mean? Like putting all that effort into fixing the bell, who cares if it's not being used? It's more of a principle thing. And usually when it comes to like, I want this to work because it's supposed to, I don't normally get paid for work like that. If there's an actual problem you're trying to resolve where sleep mode has to work, I'd be very interested in what the problem is, because it may be the sleep mode's not the right thing you should be trying to use to begin with. But I'm trying to understand, first of all, what is the issue you're resolving, or you think you're resolving, by utilizing sleep mode outside of having something like a laptop with a battery. And again, I'd be curious, other techs, what your thoughts are on sleep mode on plugged-in devices. Just to verify, is it me? I'm pretty sure we all have the same conclusion to this. Mark Leibowitz said, I had at least 3 support calls involving sleep mode just this week. Yeah, that is a constant pain in the butt. And by turning it off, it solves the problem without really any consequences. So I'm having a hard time understanding why fight for something that doesn't have any benefit. Unless there's a benefit I'm not considering, in which case, like to know, just so I can keep that in mind. Also, looks like our update finished, so let me just switch over real quick. And I'll go to restart now. And then that will finish the install. There's still a bit more it has to do, but it can't do it until it gets out of Windows first. I hit restart now. Can't remember what I just hit. I'm just gonna hit restart anyway. I don't know. I might be impatient here. There we go. And Mara reminds everybody we have a user forum. User forum is completely free. It's always open 24/7, and you can leave messages and talk to one another, ask for technical help, and get help not only from myself, from others in the community. It's all completely free. And that's at careyholzman.boards.net. And the link for that is in our video notes, along with the link for today's computer here. And a shout out to Minisforum, a company that clearly, from the amount of Minisforum product you see on my channel, this is a company I really like. I like their innovation. I like their pricing. I like their quality. It's pretty rare I ever get anything from Minisforum I don't like, but that monitor with the folding stand, yeah, not so much. But their dual screen monitor with the metal stand, that thing's pretty darn cool. So I'm not just immediately liking everything from them, but it just so happens darn near everything that they asked me to review, I love it. I see the benefits of having something like this. For most of you that are watching this video, this computer smokes whatever you're using. Like, it just leaves it in the dust. It's probably a fraction of the size, a fraction of the noise, and it probably costs less than what you paid for whatever you're using now, for the majority of you. It's under $500. That much power, that much RAM, that much storage, ready to just plug in, update, and start using it. I've never seen this kind of value in PCs before. And I'm not saying it because it's Minisforum. I challenge you, find me another computer with this processor, this amount of RAM, and this amount of Gen 4 storage in any form factor, any full-size tower, I don't care. Brand new, under warranty, for less than this. Show me. So it's not me kissing up to Minisforum. I'm just telling you, as far as I know. Maybe you know something I don't. That deal can't be beat. So if it can be, I'd like to know about it. Dazzle555 says his WinVer is 22H2. So 22H2 is the very last version of Windows 10. There'll be no 23H2 or 24H2. Microsoft said years ago when 22H2 was released, there would never be another, what do they call those updates? It gets regular security updates, but it doesn't get the compiled updates with the bigger version numbers. And they made that announcement a few years ago. They said, this is it. There won't be any more. So anything else, basically what that tells you is, say 23H2 and 24H2 for Windows 11 never came out. Let's say that Windows 11 24H2 was the last big update. That means every month since then, all those updates have to be reinstalled on a fresh, clean install of Windows 11 22H2. Windows 11 I'm talking about. Can you imagine how much time that would take to download 36 months worth of updates? So when they take all these updates, and they usually 12 months at a time, they combine them into one of these big, they have a name for it, but it's essentially a service pack. Okay, so think of it as a service pack. So 23H2 would be the service pack, and then that's your new fresh starting point on a fresh install. So you'd have to go back and download all the updates prior to that. But with Windows 10, Microsoft said this is the last service pack. So if you go to install Windows 10 today, you have to install every update that has come out since 22H2. You're going to be a while. I hope you pack a sandwich. People say, why would Microsoft do that? Well, they don't want to spend any more money on it, and they want to piss you off as much as possible to say, by the way, if you had Windows 11, you wouldn't have to do this every time. They're not wrong. And if that's the motivation to get you to upgrade, they're going to do whatever it takes to get you to have some medicine, and people don't want to take it. And as a result, you're paying in other ways. So it's up to you, but you're not getting away with anything. You're either going to upgrade like the rest of us, or you're going to fall behind and spend a lot more time solving issues nobody else has, or may not even be solvable. And anytime you try to restart over again, you're going to start from scratch, and they'll have a lot of catching up to do, since Microsoft has more or less said, we're not service packing this anymore. So good luck maintaining it. And for you personally, that may not be that big of a deal. But if you had, you know, a couple hundred computers that you had to support in a company, that doesn't scale up very well. And Microsoft did the same thing with other operating systems like Windows 8 and Windows 7, Windows Vista. It's all just the same thing. We shouldn't be surprised by it. This is typical, and it's been repeated time and again, and they'll do the same thing again, and that's business. I mean, you could run Windows XP today if you wanted to. I don't know why you'd want to. But if you absolutely insisted on it, nobody would stop you. these operating systems, they don't switch off like a light bulb. They fade. So you might think, Carey, what a ridiculous thing to say to suggest somebody would run Windows XP. What day did that become a ridiculous suggestion? Was it a month after Windows XP support officially ended? 6 months after? A year after? 2 years after? At what point did you just draw a line in the sand and say that's too far? Because for me, the day after support ends, or certainly within 90 days of that support end date, you've crossed the line that, as far as I'm concerned, you're on your own for your support. Liability-wise, I can't get my company involved in a legal liability situation to appease a customer just to put myself out of business or to make me legally liable for any damages that can occur as data loss or anything else. Ransomware, viruses, data theft. You could do that at home. I can't do that in business. It's just too risky. Katrina says, I always turn off sleep mode on my client's desktop, but not always on laptops. Yeah, same thing. And usually the way the laptop comes configured from the manufacturer works, you could just close the lid. But when it comes to desktops, I always configure it for the monitor to go to sleep, but not the computer. These processors, they don't run at full speed anymore unless they have to. So when the computer's idling, the processor's, it's just like a car idling. It's not consuming a lot of gas. It's not making a lot of noise. You could just let it idle. It's not really hurting anything. When you go to use the computer, then it's just like driving the car. You put your foot down on the gas, the engine RPMs crank up, the transmission starts turning, the wheels start turning, the power starts developing, the heat generates, the flow of the water pump will increase. And basically it's the same here. These processors, they have an idle speed. The idle speed is sipping power. It's not generating much heat, if at all. And if you're worried about monitor burn-in, which shouldn't even happen on monitors, but you could automatically have the monitor turn off or go to sleep after whatever period of time you prefer. You just wiggle the mouse, it wakes it back up. Or just reach over and hit the power button on your monitor. It's old school. And you manually shut the monitor on, or shut it off and turn it on as you deem fit. But the computer can handle that 100% of the time without problems with a timer. But putting the computer to sleep, that doesn't always work. So yeah, that's the logic behind it. Your monitor is really the big power consuming thing, because it doesn't matter what your monitor is displaying, it still takes the same amount of power. So if we're talking about conserving energy, then shutting the monitor off is your big power consumer. We're talking about saving battery life. Turning that monitor off, reducing that dimness, is going to extend your battery life on the laptop far better than any configuration on the laptop. So the monitor should be where your focus is for power consumption, and letting it go to sleep for those reasons. But this here, this kind of goes to sleep on its own, and in that the CPU goes into an idle state, which is very low power and very quiet. Luke Chappie says, I've got a question. I cannot update my system BIOS. So again, I'll remind you, we have to know what you're talking about. What does my system refer to? Does it refer to a laptop, a desktop, something you built yourself, something you bought pre-built? What operating system are you running, and why are you trying to update your BIOS? Let's start there, and then we can be more helpful with an answer for you. So remember, you need to start any technical question by telling us based on what. It would really help us a lot if we didn't have to keep asking. It's part of my job. People just assume I know what you're talking about. I know it's a computer, but I need a little bit more than that. So give us that additional information and we'll go from there. Matt Olaf joining us, saying hello. Welcome in, Matt Olaf. Mark Leibowitz says, I've seen the wisdom of Carey's refusal to continue with clients who insist on using unsupported operating systems and begin to follow. He followed suit some time ago. It's not really a choice. Especially here in America, we live in a very litigious society, and people are going to be quick to point a finger and blame you for any cause of damage or loss, even if it was their idea. When I run a business, and if you run any business, you have to decide what liability you're willing to take on legally. If you're running a real legal business, you have real legal concerns. If your business is working on Craigslist on the side and being paid under the table, do whatever you want. But we are held to a higher standard. And if I allow a customer to tell me how to run my business, I would not have had a business this long. Some customers are just not the right customers. It's nothing personal. They want a service I don't offer. That's all. If they want me to fix the refrigerator, I don't do that. It doesn't matter what they want. What matters is, this is what I can do for you. And if that doesn't meet your need, it's not on the customer's state of things to tell me how to run my business. They don't have a clue how to run a business, otherwise they'd be running one of their own. And if they were running one of their own, they would never put me in that position because they'd know better. My business is not to babysit and to coddle. My business is to efficiently help a customer as quickly as possible at the lowest possible price and to get it done right as much as I can the first time. If I can't meet those 3 requirements because the customer wants something where I can't see any way to provide it, the benefit I have as a business owner is to say, no, thank you. I appreciate your consideration, but that's not a service I can do for you. There's probably somebody else who can. I don't know who it is. It's not me. I also don't cut your lawn, and I also don't babysit your children, and all these other things. I'm not a plumber, I'm not a mechanic, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychiatrist. Sometimes customers say, well, the customer's always right. No, the customer's always right in regards to taste, in matters of taste. That's the expression. I don't know how they chopped it in half, but it never was the expression, the customer's always right. That was never an expression. The expression is the customer's always right in a matter of taste. So if I'm selling you some clothes or some paint and you want colors that don't go together, back in the old day, they just refused to sell it to you. That's ridiculous. Take the customer's money and give them the colors they want. It doesn't matter if the outfit doesn't match or the paint colors don't go together. Take the money and give them what they want. In matters of taste. But when we're talking about repair, when we're talking about liability, no. You can't go to a doctor and tell them what to prescribe you. The doctor will tell you, get out of the office. The doctor has to take liability for that prescription and needs to determine if that prescription is right for you. It's not your decision. And it just doesn't work that way. You can't go to a lawyer and tell them how to defend you. The lawyer's going to say, get out of my office. I'm not the right attorney for you. Go be your own attorney if you know so much about it. Right? So there's a very disrespectful attitude from those customers. That's a big red flag to any business owner that that's a problem customer. Not all customers are good customers. I was in line one time and this guy looked pretty sad. We was at like CES or something, and I'm trying to remember where this conversation happened. Maybe it was at a small business conference. And they said, what can I do about losing, I lost a customer? And I said, well, why did you say that like it's a bad thing? And they were baffled, like, isn't losing a customer just automatically a bad? No. Losing a good customer is a bad thing. Losing a customer, who cares? Customers come and go, they're a dime a dozen. But good customers, those are the ones you want to take care of. Those are the ones who take care of you. Those are the ones where relationships are built and there's more than just business. You've got usually a good friendship involved. There's like an inherent loyalty to it. And you'll do more for a good customer because that good customer takes care of you and does more for you. Or at the very least, they never give you a hard time. When all customers consider themselves equal, you're not. When you go shop at Walmart, Walmart doesn't care what you buy. They don't care how much money you're spending and if you'll ever come back again. It doesn't matter. But if you go shopping for something expensive, if you go to Tiffany or you go to Rolex, they're going to roll the red carpet out for you and kiss your butt, especially if you bought one before. They're highly motivated to do that because they're getting paid quite well from the sale of a very expensive product, and they want you to come back and buy another one. But Walmart, they've got so many customers that they don't miss you. If you go and say, I'm never going to shop at Walmart, they'll never even know you were ever gone. They won't notice it. They don't care. You're not spending enough money there for them to care. They're working on quantity, right? There's a sea of people that shop there every day. Nothing about you stands out. The very fact that you're shopping there is not doing them any favors. I'm telling you, you're not doing Walmart a favor. It's a reciprocal arrangement. They're willing to sell something very cheaply with very little customer service, make you wait in a very long return line if you want to return something, usually. And in return, you're going to get a good deal. But if you want to consult with somebody like, I'm trying to figure out what's the best size TV for this room I've got, what the proper distance is, and which, you need to go to a specialty store and they can provide you accurate, helpful information, and you're going to pay more for it. And because you're worth more to them, you're going to get more attention and more individualized care because it's built into the price. But if you're not paying that price, but you expect that kind of care, you better be ready for a lot of disappointment. So customers come and go. Good customers, they're rare, and they're the ones worth bending over backwards for. Which one are you? So that's the ultimate question, is before a customer says the customer's always right, why do I care? What about your purchase makes me care if you're right or not? If there's $10 in it for me either way, I'd rather not have the $10 than put up with that. And that's the benefit you have being self-employed. If you don't want to do a job, you don't have to do it. And if you take an old piece of equipment that's a liability concern for Geek Squad, just take it to Best Buy. They will turn you away. We're not working on it. Half the time they won't work on it because they don't know how. But the other half of the time it's a liability and they can't take that liability on. So it's nothing unique. It's nothing only Carey does. Any respectable business running a real business doesn't really have any choice. It's just common sense to just keep yourself in business and make sure you're keeping your customers happy. Sometimes just doing what the customer wants makes you both miserable if you fall for that trap. I've had customers think they're doing me a favor by having me work for them. It's very strange. I like to think that we helped each other out. You had a problem you needed solved. I solved it for you, and in return, you paid me some money that you felt was fair for the work. I'm not doing it for free, and I'm not doing it like you're rewarding me. Rewarding me would be you giving me the money and for me not doing anything. So if customers want to give me money and say, this is just for you being you, and you don't have to do anything in return, that's a different story. But the minute the customer doesn't recognize the reciprocal nature of a business relationship, automatically that's not a good customer. They have no value to me. And if I'm tied up, if I'm wasting time with that customer, how many good customers passed me by while I wasn't paying attention? What's the real cost involved? And what's the sustainability of my business if I allow a customer to monopolize my time because I want to be polite? Being polite doesn't pay my bills. And as critical and cliche as that sounds, how do you pay yours? Are you using someone else's money? That'd be an interesting option. I wish I had that option. So it's not about being mean. It's just, let's be fair. Be fair to me and I'll be fair to you. That's all. Show me a little respect and consideration, and I'll show you a lot of respect and consideration in return. If you think the world revolves around you and everybody has to answer your beck and call, I have a price for that. And if you're not willing to pay that price, I'm not willing to follow your rules. That's it. It's pretty straightforward. I think pretty obvious. How much money can a good PC tech make working for themselves? It depends what kind of work you get into and where you live. The cost of living in New York City or San Francisco, Boston, Chicago, you'd likely have to make more money, and you'd likely be worth more per hour given where you live. And then of course the kind of work you do. Are you specializing in network administration, database programming, website design, point of sale? Are you dealing with customizing menuing systems for restaurants and you know, are you doing something very specific? Because if you're a specialist, you can earn a lot more money. If you're just being self-employed and taking work from consumers, you're probably going to have a hard time making ends meet. But how much you make is up to you. There's no this is how much you can make number. It's really how much do you want to make, and it's up to you to grind and get it done. So the sky is the limit. Let me just go back and check for updates to our 24H2, just since this is idling here. Oh, I want to turn this on. This on. 0 optional updates, good. There we go. Yeah, so these are all the updates that came out since that service pack. And then there's probably one more series of updates after this. So that's normal. Anytime you get a computer brand new, or you've just built one, you've got to go through the updates. At least if you want it to be safe and secure and be, you know, at its best in performance and reliability, that should be as important to you as it is to me. Once you've done that, then put your printer on, then set up your email, then install your apps. But this should be the first thing you do on any new build or any new computer or laptop. Go through your updates and plan for that to take a while. And the older the machine is, in this case we have a 2-year-old machine, the better the price is, and yet the performance difference is so minimal. Why spend twice as much to only go 15 or 20% faster? Where'd the value go? You just lost it. So if you have a need for that, obviously you should have the budget to match that need. But for the rest of us looking for a great value, I challenge you to find a better value than this. Find me something equivalent that costs less. I'd love to see it. As far as I know, this stands on its own in value. So if you see the value of it, snatch them up where they're available. That's all I could say. We have links to Amazon. You can also order it direct from Minisforum. And at least with Amazon, you know, you've got that regular Amazon return policy. You can experience this for yourself. Because it doesn't matter what I say or anybody else says. What matters is, what do you think? And until you're behind the wheel driving it, it's really hard to understand without that personal experience what that value means to you. And from there, you can choose to keep it or return it. That full 30-day return window on Amazon means you can return anything you buy there at any time within 30 days at 0 cost for a full refund. If you can't figure out if you like this or not in the first couple days, I don't know why anybody needs 30 days. But the only way you're really going to know is to have one in front of you and use it. And if there's no risk, why not give it a shot? If you think that's going to be a good purchase for you, the only way you know for sure is to try it. And having that peace of mind that for any reason, even if it's just I changed my mind, Amazon will take it back and give you a full refund. For free. There's no cost to return it. So I don't know what more people want, but there you go. Now there is a Ryzen version of this, as I mentioned early in the beginning of the show. we have that as well, and we'll be taking a look at that if I have time this weekend. Otherwise, next week we'll take a look at the AMD side of things. They're very similar in price and size and everything. But if you have a preference for one reason or another, you have options. And if you want to jump ahead, that's available on Amazon on the same link that we shared here. All right, I think it'll wrap it up for today's show. We've gone about an hour over, but I really love the interaction from everybody. It's a Friday, we're hanging out, we're having fun. And if we can help, if there's an actual problem you're trying to solve, it's very rewarding to help another person. So we're always willing and eager to help others in our community. And if you're not a part of our community, you're certainly welcome to be a part of it as long as you're kind. Please join us. If you miss the live feeds or you can't join the live chat, hang out in our message forum. That's another great way to interact with myself and others in the community, as well as to get support or have questions answered, again, by myself and the rest of the community who can participate in that discussion. So you're not just getting my opinion or my resolution. In many cases, there are several different ways to accomplish the goal. And the way I do it may be very different from how somebody else does it. Doesn't mean one way's right or wrong. It's nice to have options though. So keep that in mind. It's all completely free. The link is in the video notes below this video. A shout out again to our friends at SCD Keys. If you're looking for a discounted license code for Windows or Microsoft Office, you can save 30% with coupon code Carey. It's not a commission link. I put this out here to save you guys money. If you don't take advantage of it, I don't know what to tell you. Honestly, I put that out there for you. I don't want to see you get burned. I don't want to see you get scammed. This is real, legit, and legal. If you have any issues and you bring it to their attention, they will fix it. If they don't fix it, so first of all, you're not likely going to have any issues. If you do, let them know. People make mistakes. It happens. They'll fix it. And if even that happens, then you reach out to me personally, and I promise you, it'll be made right. I'll make it whole. I wouldn't sit here and endorse this if I had any doubt that they weren't the single best provider of Windows and Office license keys at the most reasonable price with 6 months of support after the sale included. I can't find that kind of peace of mind off eBay or Etsy or wherever you're getting your Windows copies. It's too shady for my business to do that. So if it's good enough for my business, I know it's good enough for the home users for sure. And I back that up personally. And I'm not aware of any content creator that does that. That's how strongly I believe in it. And I know from experience. So peace of mind. First of all, whether we're talking about Minisforum, we're talking about SCD keys, I have to have that to run a business. But content creators don't. They're not held liable. They don't care. Generally speaking, their attitude more often than not is that's between you and them. I can't do that in my business, and so I don't do it on my YouTube channel. So if you're wondering what's the motivation here, why is he doing it differently? It sounds too good to be true. No, it's not too good to be true. I have to do it this way because I run a real business. Anyway, if I ran my business the way content creators run theirs, I wouldn't have a business. It's different when you're facing people versus selling something online and you never actually know the person or see them. What I do in real life, I can be held accountable for, and I am held accountable for. And there are very serious consequences if I don't do my job right. And it costs the company money, or it costs them in potentially losing their whole business, right? So somebody gets ransomware. I have offsite backups. I can bring them back up online quickly. What if I wasn't making those offsite backups, but I said I was? What do you think would happen to me when they need it and I don't have it, but they've been paying me for that? What do you, just use your imagination. What do you think would happen? I promise you I won't have a business anymore. And quite frankly, they may not have a business anymore either. That's how serious what I do is. So when we're talking about Minisforum or we're talking about license keys for home users, those consequences could never be that bad. So if it's going to meet the demands of the businesses and the liabilities that a real business has, you should have 100% peace of mind. You're going to be okay. There's no scam here. And of course, if we can help you out with anything, feel free to reach out to us. Again, I want to encourage the use of the message forum. It's been pretty slow lately, so I'd like to see you guys more active in there. Share your builds. Let us know what new technology is coming out you're excited to see. Let us know if you have any questions. And again, not just me, but the entire community should be who we're engaging with. It's not, the idea behind the message forums is we're bringing the community together. We're not bringing you all to me, although I do participate in there. So, as does Mara, of course. And a shout out to Mara for all the work she does in the background, getting those video notes up to date, creating the thumbnails, and working with potential companies for reviews. Working with companies for potential reviews. She weeds out all the nonsense. There's a lot of nonsense. And our thanks to Minisforum. You know, I'm very proud to make as many videos as I have, because so many other products are so different, where other mini PC manufacturers are just building the same box over and over and over again. And that's just kind of boring for me. That'll wrap it up for me for today. Thank you all for hanging out. I want to give a shout out once again to everybody who has contributed during today's show. Just give me a minute so I can bring that screen back up. Colin Hunt and Peter VZ, thank you for your super chats, along with Mark Gaines and David Graham. Thank you also to Gregory Howard and Nick Caffrey, Charlie Purdy, and welcome again, John Struthers, into a membership here. Every Monday we do members only videos. Those videos are never released to the public. They're available only to members, for members, and only members can see them and participate in them. So they're a lot smaller as far as like crowd and chaos goes. It's a lot more intimate and informal. We give you an idea of what's going on behind the scenes, what we're working on, what's coming up, and we just like hanging out. Sometimes I show a repair, sometimes I show a build, and those again are never made public. They're just a benefit of membership. All videos older than 12 months old, we've been making videos since 2008. That's in our archive so as to not mess with the search engine. And for members, you can go back and watch any of those videos from more than 12 months ago, all the way back to 2008. That's another benefit of membership. And finally, the best benefit of membership from my perspective is it keeps us independent so that we don't have to go to a big corporation and get their permission and, you know, have to read their scripts and say their words coming out of my mouth, because that's how we pay the bills. I don't want to pay the bills that way. Our sponsors are you guys. And if we can work with a company to save you some money, that's why we're doing it. We're not doing it to fatten our wallets. We're doing it to make sure you keep as much of your money as possible. And if we think there's something you should avoid, we'll tell you that too. We don't have a dog in the race. We're independent because you allow us to be independent by supporting us here. And we can't thank our members enough for that. And specifically, Shamim Kajviras renewed his membership today, as did Gregory Howard. And we appreciate you continuing your membership here. And we try to make that worth your while by doing special things for the members. Also, the Amazon gift cards and PayPal contributions, I want to shout out a thank you one more time, because folks have been very generous today. William Denton, we thank you again for the Amazon gift card. Robert Barnes, we thank you again for your PayPal contribution. Mark Gaines, thank you. Very generous PayPal contribution, and for sharing your photos with us. A shout out to Frankie B with a very generous contribution the other day, which I can't say thank you enough for. Frankie joins us from New York. Mark Gaines is in Northern Ireland. William Denton, is it Ohio? Anyway, we have viewers all over the world. And it's so kind when folks support what we're doing here. It means the world to me. And it enables us to make content for the public that is essentially, it's no longer being funded by YouTube ads, unfortunately. So instead of going fully members only, we found a way to balance it so we can still release videos free to the public. But I also want the public to know, without these members in green and without the generosity of our viewers, these videos just wouldn't, they just have to be members only or not at all. So I hope you appreciate them as much as I do. That is going to wrap it up for today. Again, I'm not sure on the schedule on the weekend. We're still in the middle of renovations here, so depending on how that goes this weekend, there may be a video, there may not be. The next video I'm planning on doing is the Ryzen, the AMD Ryzen version of this Minisforum. Yeah, I just don't know when. All right, that'll wrap it up for me for today. Thank you so much for hanging out. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Friday. Have a great weekend. We'll see you all again very, very soon. Until next time, bye for now.